Okay. What a surprise. What a nice surprise. Hi, guys. This is redpillphil. You're on my YouTube page at this moment in time. This is a situation I didn't think I would be in just at this moment in time. Normally, I am the person on the other side of the camera that just kind of sits there and lets everybody else get involved. But for today only, and maybe in the future, I've decided to take the helm. Now, I've got a wonderful guest with me. I must admit, it's a guest that until I attended the Edinburgh March, which was the Veterans Against Terrorism, which was on the 25th of November, I had never heard of the lady before, only out of my own ignorance, I must add, not because of all the lovely work she's done. Now, the fine young lady that is on the other side of the screen, so it were, is Toni Bugle. And Toni Bugle is the founder of Maria's. Now, Maria's is Mothers Against Radical Islam and Sharia, an organisation which offers much needed help to ladies who have been groomed and raped by Muslim grooming gangs. Now, it's not, you can kind of say that in a soundbite, but as I'm saying it, it's almost like it's hurting me to say it, but that's the reality that we live in. And the reality for Toni Bugle's life, because she is totally engrossed this situation. She works tirelessly through all social media forums. This is a lady that's been on RT and other mediums all across the board, worldwide renowned. So I must admit, I am in company that I feel very humbled, and I am very honoured for my first interview on a live stream to be in such great company. So with that, Toni, I'm going to say hello and thank you very much for making my YouTube channel that much more brighter on this Sunday evening.
Well, it was Christmas and I felt you needed some cheer, so I decided that I would push you a little harder into doing this live.
Yes.
Even though I know you was like, I don't know what I'm doing. We work this one out as we go, and that's what we did. That's what we did. And to be honest with you, the funny thing was, I knew who you were. You didn't have a clue who I was, but I knew who you were. And I love the fact that when I saw you stood there, I told you I saw you stood there that day, and I thought, that's redpillphil. I've got to say hello to this man, because you came at things from, you came from like a bolt of lightning from nowhere. And what I found fascinating was that you are more liberal, and yet there you were challenging the normal narrative. And I found that quite fascinating, and therefore I sat and watched quite a few of your videos, most of which I agree with. A couple of bits I may not have agreed with, but on the whole, our views were not so dissimilar. Is what I find quite fascinating.
I mean, this channel is all about opinions, you know, and I can't say for sure that everyone is going to agree with my opinions, just like I don't agree with everyone else's opinions. And that, for me, is what this channel is for, and that's why the comments are there. It's a forum of open ideas. So you either resonate or you don't, or you can slightly see where I'm coming from, or you don't. And, you know, I can respect either view, really. I like the fact that I can be able to speak my opinions, be considerate about it, and also people can allow me that chance without calling me Nazi, without calling me a traitor to my own sort, which was the very comments that's made me get to this point. I mean, if this lady who actually challenged me on that first occasion at the UK Against Hate March, if she realised the demon that it was going to bring out in me, hence me bringing this channel, hence me going to all the marches and speaking to all the wonderful people I have, I think she would have kept her mouth firmly shut on that day, because she doesn't realise the Streisand effect that is actually happened because of that one event, really. So
you could say, to a degree, although I would never call you right-leaning, as we are called far-right, we are called neo-Nazis and everything else. In a way, she kind of pushed for that, even though she's trying to say that's not what we want. But actually, when you come with people like Phil, who's trying to be very from try and see things from both points of view, and you commenting like that, well, what do you expect? You're going to push that in a direction that people don't necessarily want to go. You kind of created that situation whereby, and then when they start to look into what is claimed to be the far right, suddenly they realise these people are not a far right at all, which then makes you go, well, hang on a minute, all these claims are far right. This doesn't fit. None of this fits. None of it makes sense. And although we know there are neo-Nazis, we know there are supremacists, we know that there are those who are extreme hardline right, there are actually very few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that when I met you, I said to you, I got called fascist, Nazi, bigot, racist, Islamophobe, and every other label that there is, you kind of went, really? Because I think it must have been a shock for you to meet people who are like-minded, all standing there and coming together the way that they did. And you're sitting there going, there is nothing far right about this. So that woman actually created you, didn't she?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, when I first attended that march, it was so important. It was almost like Mecca. I'll never forget. I was due to go to that event with a close friend of mine. However, on that weekend, it was his birthday. Now, being his birthday, he had a few drinks, and I think he had he had a very nice tequila night. So when he woke up the following day, the tequila was kind of still very influential within his body. So he kind of said, mate, I can't come today. I'm kind of all over the place. So I wasn't too happy because I felt, oh, right, mate, I'm going to this all on my own now. And other complications on that day, I ended up walking from where I live, literally walking because there was problems with public transport that day. So I ended up walking 3-4 miles to actually go to that event. And I'll never, ever forget, Tony, that it was like, you know, it's very ironic that we've got the Christmas tree behind, the story of Jesus following the North Star, okay? Now, my North Star was a helicopter that I knew was in over the actual scene in Manchester, but I also knew it was a couple of miles away from me. So I used that helicopter as a beacon, and I was crisscrossing in and out of streets trying to make the quickest route to that event. When I got to that event, I did see people on the more extreme side. I did see people that represented the EDL there. But the main representative of that crowd was average people, just like me, just like yourself. I shook so many people's hands because they felt it validated. Oh, thank you, mate. Nice. You know, I'm not a racist, you know, and everyone was so apologetic, and I'm almost dumbfounded. I said, well, you don't have to apologize to me because I can see within 10 seconds of this conversation that there's nothing bad about you having concerns and wanting to come to this march, because believe it or not, mate, I'm in the same boat. I've got concerns. I'm not extreme in any way. I love people, full stop. But this situation needs to be spoke about. It needs to be an open forum of ideas needs to, you know, take place. Now, with the media, just demonizing anyone who even goes near it, even if there's a whiff of it, they kind of, no, you're all far right, no, you're all this. So it kind of got my back up a little bit. Now, I had no inclination to kind of have a confrontation with anybody. I was literally just being nosy that day, walking around. So after the march,
nosy person, you.
I can't help it. I've got a big mouth, and you know, sometimes I just walk and see. And if I tend to hear something that I disagree with, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say something, and I'll try and say it in a way where I'm not confrontational. However, on that day, the way she come across, all she could do was be confrontational. She didn't give me the same courtesy that I was giving her. There was other members around her that was being a bit more polite and allowing me to speak. So I kind of was nice to them. I kind of pinpointed on her because of just the lunacy statement she's saying, calling me a Nazi, calling me a traitor to my own sort, which is like putting me back in that box. We are all the same sort. So I don't know whether anyone remembers that clip, but as she said that, my face kind of screwed up and I kind of looked back and said, because I was in utter disbelief that a lady would say that. Particularly when I'm there, to kind of show solidarity to stop anyone getting bombed. Not particularly, you know, pale white people, human beings. That bomb could have took out anybody. I don't know any bomb that is homemade, that is kind of race specific, let's say. You know, that bomb could have took out anybody. Whoever was in that Adriana Grande concert was a target. Now, it was just a case of who was unlucky and unfortunate enough to be in close proximity of it. Could have been men, could have been women, could have been girls, could have been boys. And it was a bit of all of them, I guess. So once you see it through that clear sense, I knew I had every right to be there. And I knew the amount of people that I spoke to on the day were absolutely fantastic people, although there was a few wrong-uns there. So I'm not going to deny that. But then it comes down to the left. The lady who I was confronting, how would you regard her? Would you regard her as a nice, polite, civil lady? Or the kind of lady that you say one thing that she disagrees with, and that's the way she talks to you? So she's shown her colours on that day for me.
Can I just say that you know, use the term lady very loosely. It's not a description I would have had for her, if I'm honest. Loud mouth, yes. Bad attitude, 100%. Even worse, hair, absolutely. Lady, no. A lady wouldn't have come at you in such an aggressive, confrontational manner, and where she judged every single person in truth by her own kind of behaviour and her own attitude. It is attitudes like hers that, and this is why we wanted to get to tonight, because you've had a lot of people requesting you make a video about the Trump retweeting, and I've had the same sort of request, and I wanted to make it more about, let's not talk about who he retweeted, let's talk about the fact that he retweeted a tweet that 2 of those videos turned out to be factually correct. And secondly, why did our government make such a huge deal out of the fact that he retweeted what he retweeted, regardless of who put it? They would have made the same amount of fuss if he'd retweeted me, the same amount of fuss if he'd retweeted anybody they deem as being far right. They would have made the same amount of fuss. And I think that by doing this, they can damage the relations between America and the UK with regards to the special relationship that they're always talking about. I always find that interesting. You have a special relationship. We have a relationship. I don't know how special it is. I have a special relationship with the Americans, because actually, when all of the elections were coming up, suddenly you saw the American people and the people of the United Kingdom banding together and keeping each other, because we're getting information that's happening in America quicker than they're getting it, and vice versa. You know, they're getting the information. When the FLA held their march and they've got all the first one, which was 10,000 people, nobody in this country wanted to cover it on TV, but it was on American TV. So we realized that actually, together, we can get information to each other that the government cannot control.
Well, after the Brexit vote, I do believe a lot of Americans got a lot of solidarity and a lot of power. And it's almost like, if that group over there are showing a little bit of strength and fighting back for themselves, look what we can do. So I do believe we give them a lot of power and courage to go ahead with what they were doing.
We did. And I know that because I have a lot of American people that I speak to, and there's a lot of Americans that follow me on Twitter. And I know for a fact that they were saying to me on the night of their elections, I was getting the results quicker than they were getting. And I bring them out. And the same with the Brexit vote. I sat up all night through the Brexit vote, and I was putting the information out as it was coming, as each area was coming through. I was putting the Americans and the support that they showed towards us voting to leave showed them that actually voting can make a difference. You can achieve it. Now, the problem is now, how much of this will actually, I'm just opening a can of pop, it's not beer, just in case you're worried. No, I'm not a drunk or anything.
The only worry I've got is that you've not got a can for me. Never mind, I don't mind.
I would have passed it through the screen, Phil, but somehow I just don't think it would have worked. No. I did think about getting that, because my friend had brought me a lovely bottle of white rum when she came to see me, and I was so tempted to have a white rum. And I thought, no, don't do this, drunk Tony. I don't drink very often.
No, the music could be on. I've got all my music system here. If the White Rum was to come out, before you know it, I'd be shimmying all over the place, and we'd be off topic before you know it. Yeah, it wouldn't be pretty, let me tell you. It's never pretty. My daughters look at me when I'm on my decks, and they're like, Dad, really? You know, so, and that's without alcohol, so no, it's probably a good idea. I'm on water and coffee myself, so you go ahead, it's fine.
I think that actually, to be honest with you, breaking out in some kind of, you know, reggae dance will be quite entertaining for people. And I'm sure many would appreciate such a view.
Well, maybe later. Let's see how if the interview goes really badly, I might need to do something to fill it out a little bit. So we'll hold that thought.
We kind of said, didn't we, that since we met at Edinburgh, which I have to say, this is something that I found, that certain things that slightly disappointed me, I can't lie to you, was seeing such a huge turnout for the Football Lads Alliance. A fair play to everybody who turned out. I wanted to see a similar sort of turnout, at least a proportion of that sort of turnout for our veterans. And to not see, I mean, there was a couple of hundred there. There should have been at least 10,000, you know, minimum.
Yes.
Because the vets turned up to show their support. It would have been good to have seen the FLA and those who support the FLA turn out in those sort of numbers and show the same support to these people that one have served our country. And as I said to you today, they are actually the voice of our armed forces that are serving, that can't have an opinion. They're not allowed an opinion. If they was to have an opinion, their career's over. They lose everything. Plus, they can end up in prison. So these men and women are the voices of those who are still serving. It would have been wonderful to have seen people get behind them in momentum. And I hope that come February the 17th, we will be in Newcastle, and I will be there again. And I know you will be.
I will be. I've never been to Newcastle before, so yeah, it'll be the first time, and I can't wait. Particularly because not because it's Newcastle, but because of the cause. These guys, in terms of marches, you know, the fact that they are armed forces. If you can't listen to the armed forces that have been and seen the bloodiest side of what this ideology is all about, if they can't come back home and talk about it, and then, you know, people not at least appreciate what they're saying, not be obliged to listen to what they're saying, without listening to the media, which half of them consist of people that have never done a day's work in their life, but yet these guys can demonize these guys. I mean, I've got a business card of one of the vets, which you give it to me. And I did not realize, now to my ignorance again, one of the vets, Simon B, is an MBE.
Yeah.
He's got a title after his name, but yet he's going to get castigated as a Nazi, as a far right, when all he wants to do is patriotic. I mean, look at that card. And what's nasty about that?
This is the other thing that we were talking about. For those who didn't come along, you know, you actually missed a fantastic day, because everybody, and I mean everybody, was calm, rational. They were concise. They were exact. There was no fannying around. There was no making it into something it wasn't. But when we looked over to our, well, if we were standing in front of the speaker, it would have been over to our right. We've got this little group of lefties. There was about 20 of them. And I couldn't help but giggle afterwards when I realized what they were actually chanting, which was, we are black, white. We are black, white, Muslim, gay and Jew.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I said to you, I said, there's not one person in there who's got this lovely tan skin you've got, not one. So how are you any of those things? There was one Muslim guy, and when Shazia Hobbs, who, by the way, sends her love, I spoke to her on the phone today, but when she went up to them and said, what about apostates? What about ex-Muslims? Straight away, he left. Didn't want to talk to her.
I was actually facing that guy when Shazia, same again, I'd never met Shazia before. I went up to the gentleman I was facing, and now he was a Scottish chap, white chap with a beard, and he's saying Jew, and he's following what the Compare, which was the Muslim chap that you're talking about, he was starting the chant going. So this geezer, the Scottish chap's in front of me, just saying, you know, this, that, and the other. It's all documented. It's all there. And I was dumbfounded the fact that he was actually coming across that way. He wanted to be representative of what all them different kind of species, races, whatever you want to call. When in reality, we're all as one. We know that anyway. But what makes him think that we didn't feel exactly the same way?
Somebody just said the guy's name was Assad Khan, was the one shouting on the megaphone. He was well-known far-left Edinburgh activist. He's only 19. I don't know what you've got to be active about at the age of 19. I mean, your testicles haven't even dropped at the age of 19.
Exactly.
You know,
there's a northern saying, well, which it might have gone down south. It might have come from down south.
No, you're behind us. It might come from the south.
Well, yeah, exactly. So it's like a saying that goes, you don't know your ass from your elbow.
Yeah.
You know, at that age, you've no idea what's going on in the world, but all of a sudden you're going to jump into something. I'm 47 years of age, and I'm still trying to work out what's going on in the world, you know, but I do know right from wrong. And he might feel he knows right from wrong, but he doesn't realise what he's actually doing. He's not coming to the debate with anything. He's just closing people down.
No, they've got no facts. They didn't bother to take a look across and see who was actually there. We have Mafaisal Islam, and Mafaisal Islam, very high prominent at one point, very high prominent Muslim scholar at the time, but left Islam. And we're standing there with a bulletproof vest on. Mm-hmm. They had to put a bulletproof vest on him to stop him from being shot and killed. But this is a safe country because Sadiq Khan, since this is we have, you know, it's part and parcel, and we're the safest country in the world. Well, you need to make your mind up. If we're that safe, I would like to know, why do we have dirty, great concrete blocks being delivered across the country, including now York Minster's got it all around it, to stop people from being mowed down by terrorists? They can call it any word they want. They're terrorists. Why have we got that? If one is the safest country in the world, well, that would be because he's a bit of a contradiction. We're the safest country in the world according to Sadiq Khan, but terror is part and parcel.
Yeah. Well, just in case, let's just fit on the street a load of concrete bollards so the people that actually live within them streets and function on a day-to-day basis, they're going to feel safe. Yeah, because it almost looks like how it did in the 80s or maybe earlier than that with the East-West Germany divide, police state. Now that's really where we're heading. Now I've not been to Manchester yet in terms of the town centre. I know we've got Christmas markets there at the moment, as most major cities around England. So my kids being the kids and my wife's like, oh, we'll have to go to the Christmas markets. And I will go. But I did say to my wife, I said, I'm going to find this difficult, you know. And she goes, why? I said, well, I've got a problem with actually going to this market, looking at a load of trendies that are going to be in there with all, you know, the mulled wine and the scarves and all, feeling that they're in the right place, and look at me and I'll just tag in at the Christmas market. Whilst in reality, we're in a police state and there's armed police walking around. When if we was to listen to the gone again. Oh, we're back.
Oh, we're back. Well, I just had to sit still looking beautiful. I thought I'd do a couple of poses, you know, like you do.
Yeah, I think George Soros is spiking the actual stream at this moment in time.
I think he's in there throwing the dollars to make sure that they do control what we say, because we do live in it, and we do live in a controlled state. And I know we live in a controlled state. But when people say to me, Tony, how would you feel if you had all the army out there with their guns? I said, you know what? I'm not a terrorist. If there was a bloke wearing an army uniform or any other kind of uniform stood outside my house right now with a bloody great gun in his hand, I'm not going to feel any fear, because I have got nothing to hide. I'm not carrying any weapons, and I'm not about to go and cause anyone any harm. So what have I got to fear by that? you know. But I do think that one of the things that I found, you were mentioning about the markets, for example, I'm looking here, explosive device found on children's carousel at German Christmas market. A children's carousel. This isn't just, you know, markets that they're trying to target. This is a children's carousel. The same as with the Manchester bombing. They knew that predominantly what was going to be at that Manchester arena was going to be mostly girls, because it's going to be mostly girls wanting to listen to the likes of Ariana Grande. She doesn't do it for me, to be honest with you.
Nope. Same here.
So they really targeted girls, and I have a bit of a theory. I think that when you see things like the Ariana Grande concert or Cologne New Year's Eve, when so many women were targeted and raped with, again, good Tara Hush, I actually think what you're looking at is the enforcement of Sharia law. Because in accordance to Sharia law, you're not permitted to go outside unless you are accompanied by a male member of the family. Did you know that?
Right. No, I didn't.
Now, if that's the case, by terrorizing little girls, Dad's natural instinct's going to be, you ain't going nowhere without me. I'm going with you. Now, all of a sudden, we've got girls. Now, I'm not saying that I blame fathers for that reaction, but they're kind of enforcing Sharia law with their terror attacks. So, which is why I've said, I hope at the next one, I want as many women as I can bloody well get. I want as many women out there as we can possibly get, because I'll be damned if I will bow to Sharia law.
Yeah. Well, this is where, I mean, going back to Donald Trump again, you know, you can see that all Trump tried to do was reply to what was logical about the message. Nothing to do with the message here, just the message. Now, them tweets, them videos, I've not seen the moving pictures. I've heard about them, and they're obviously gruesome. And to talk about them not being verified, who makes it verified? I mean, what do you want to do? How do you verify something like a moving picture? Are you trying to say that, oh, that was just a dummy being thrown off? You know, it's crazy, absolutely crazy.
The ridiculous thing was the tweet itself, the context within the tweets, i.e. the actual video footages, 2 of them were verified as being official and was translated, and the one of the statue of Mary that was being smashed up also confirmed as being factual. And right at the end of it, after he smashes it up, he said there will be no other false idols, and he smashes it up, he says Allahu Akbar. Kind of think he's self-explanatory at that point.
I think so, you know.
I get a bit fed up when people say to me, you can't, how can you say that's what they're saying? Well, hello, every time, and people go, we're not cowed, we're not afraid. Bullshit. I call bullshit on that. We are. Oh, we are. But when you get up and go to work, you don't have a choice. You've got a family to provide for.
Well, I mean, look where we are. I mean, you've just mentioned about that incident, a bomb being found on a carousel in Germany. Now, we've appeased to Islam, or the radicalisation of Islam in this country. You can't talk about it. You know, we're all supposed to have candles and all sing Bayar, and we're setting off bollards everywhere. And we're dressing up the bollards nice, so, you know, they don't look threatening. So we've done all that. Has it stopped? There's a bomb that's just gone. You know, so this is never going to stop. The more you appeal to it, the more it's going to come at you. These guys want you to be in that sense of fear, because that's what terrorism is all about, is portraying that fear, terrorizing you. Now, it's the very thought of the act that is just as bad as actually the act itself. Now, what worries me is that we've got a growing population that's used to this.
You've got to just say, now, I'm having a problem hearing you, and have you got any headphones to turn your volume down? I'm surprised. Normally, it's me with a big mouth.
Oh, so right. I shall.
I'll entertain them while you make yourself look like a Dalek. But I'm trying to keep an eye on, because they're saying you sound a bit like a robot.
We'll see if this one.
Hopefully, if they can all give you a minute.
How's that? Is that any better?
Why are people telling me to mute my mic? If I mute my mic, then how's he going to hear me?
Yeah, well, I know I can hear reverb when I talk to you. It's kind of bouncing back to me. Now, I don't know whether that's through my side or your side. Like I say, this is very much learning as we go here, particularly on my side. I've never done this before, so is that any better?
Well, we're just trying to find out. Not mute, turn down. Hang on, let me see if I turn my volume down a little bit, if that helps them. Bear with me. I don't want to turn you down so I can't hear you. Right, let's see if that's
How's that? Am I bouncing back now?
Mute YouTube, Phil. Well, a group that's well protected, raping kids, drugs, terrorism. Well, that's got nothing to do with that. You need to be on headphones, and Tony needs to turn down speakers. Well, we've done that, so hopefully we've resolved.
Hopefully that should have sorted it.
Well, they're telling me to turn my speakers down, but I can't actually turn my speakers down.
Have you got a set of headphones handy, Tony? Or
bear with me on a memento. Oh, but some people are saying that's better. But let me see if I can find mine.
Is this the part where I do my reggae dance?
Yeah, you can put your music on now, love.
Okay, I'll have a little bit of a shimmer.
They're very lucky because I come equipped.
Ah, like it.
I've said that to so many men before. They never seem that impressed when I say it. I come equipped and they go, oh, shit.
What does that mean?
They need to worry about what it means for them. Right. Let's see.
How's that?
I
can still hear myself bouncing back though.
Hold on.
Audio.
It's setting it up at the minute.
Right.
It's because my computer did a load of device checkups. It says it's ready to go. I should be able to hear you now.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah.
Not coming through on my computer, no. Not coming through on here. You should be coming through on this, but you're not.
Right, okay. You see, when I'm talking to you, I kind of hear a slight delay where it's kind of a second or so, and then it's coming back at me, but only slightly.
Very, very odd.
Yeah, I don't know what I can...
Normally, as soon as I plug my headphones in,
mute microphone. Right, I'm just going to mute microphone.
Not when you mute yours, no.
Logic there, really. It was kind of logical that was going to happen, but I just thought...
Mine are not doing anything. Normally, it'll only work with these. But as it happens, you're still coming through on my computer.
Right.
So I don't know what that's about. So I'm afraid, people, you're all going to have to bear with us until we become experts at it. But considering this is we're virgins. So
we are. I mean, I don't know how I've ended up with 2 kids being that. It's kind of an immaculate conception thing going on. But
don't complain about it. You could get written into a big book.
As long as it's the right book.
Some people are saying it's much better. So it might be the lady speakers, but there's not much I can do about it, really. I wish I could, but I can't.
Right.
And maybe other people have got taken into consideration. It might not be our equipment, it might be theirs.
Right. Well, I can hear the bounce back of me, so I think there's something not quite right there, if you know what I mean. Normally, when I've done streams before, I don't hear the bounce back. But looking at this now, I'm not sure what I can do to actually change that.
Probably not much of anything, actually.
Right, okay. Voice studio.
A lot of people are saying it's sorted now. So.
Oh, okay. Right then.
So I'm going to first, I want to put a question to you.
Right, go for it.
This is a question that was sent to me. Hang on a minute, bear with me. Right, this has come from a guy who was actually up there in Edinburgh.
Yep.
Who I like to refer to as Haggis Hero. He says, as we know, radical Islam is a severe problem, and there is, in my view, only 2 ways to prevent it from turning our world on its head, which is 1, the complete ban on Islam and shutting of mosques, or 2, the monitoring of Islamic preaching services by implementing an independent government agency.
Ooh.
Both have dangers. As we know, Islam is at a complete polar opposite to our society. So what, in your opinions, would be the best way to prevent radical Islam dominating and perverting Western culture?
Growing a pair of balls. Simple as that.
A big set of cojones is one. I would say
I like that second idea that you mentioned, having an independent body that's not partisan in any way. Because if you could do that, they would attack it straight away. Because you would identify the problem. We've got the freaking problem. We've got bomb bollards being, you know, erected all over the country. So we've got a problem. We've got mosques that are preaching hate. But it doesn't mean to say everyone who attends that mosque. But it does mean to say there's a lot of harbouring going on within them mosques. So there is an issue. And we've got to call it out. And we've got to say, you know, I've always said if it was a group of black people that were radicalised running about, if there was a group of Irish people radicalised, where they're meeting, you would have to consider that that is the problem. You'd have to shut that down straight away. When it comes to forums, you know, when they're talking with the phones and this, that and the other, with the surveillance state they've got, we know they can monitor all, you know, the communications that's going on. So why aren't they getting pulled in? As soon as you pull them in and you're draconian with them, guess what will happen? It will stop. And that's it. We need to terrorise them just like they are terrorising us. But we're doing it as if to say, you can't do this to our women and children. You cannot do this on our land. If you want to come into this country, you've got to live with our ideals, you've got to speak our language, and you've got to integrate within our system. We will let you practice Islam as long as it's peaceful. And you bear in mind that you're in England and you can't come to England thinking that the very westernized society is wrong. Because it's like me going into any country and thinking the very being of your court is absolutely wrong. But you know what? I'm going to come in. I want you to pay for me. And I don't want anyone to kind of call me because I've got radical views against your way of life. You know, and I'm not going to boast it to anyone kind of causing all these events. So, yeah, I do agree that we do need a fresh pair of eyes to look at this because our government is not doing it with a fresh pair of eyes. It's almost like our government are ISIS sympathizers. And that is the logic.
I think we spoke about this on the phone one night, and I said to you, if it was me, say for example, somebody waved a magic wand and I suddenly became the Prime Minister, which is never going to happen, realistically.
No, because you're going to become the future Baroness.
Apparently. Somehow I don't think anybody's going to want that either. But what I would do is, and I said this to you, and it's how I would deal with it, when a mosque is involved in extremism, preaching hatred, teaching hateful literature, shut it down. Shut it down and open it up as a refuge for our 13,000 ex-serving soldiers living on the streets in this country. If you get another one, boom, we're shutting you down. If you look at it like a petulant child, now, a lot of people are saying ban Islam. What they have to understand is our government, whether we like it or not, all governments across the world, not just in this country, across the world, recognise it as a religion. And in this country, we have a thing called the right to religious freedom. And there are Muslims such as Sufis. Sufism, they're not a problem. If you listen to Mufaisal Islam, he will tell you himself there is no such. Sufis are peaceful people. They live their life in accordance to what they call the mystical text of Islam. They don't live it out in its totalitarian form. They don't go to the mosque and they don't go to see imams. So they're not a threat to this country. And whether people like it or not, people have a right to religious freedom. So you're never going to be able to completely ban Islam. It's just not going to happen. Realistically, it's not going to happen. So if that's not going to happen, we have to take the next step. The next step has to be, you preach from your mosque hatred, we're shutting your mosque down. You have a school, a Trojan school, that is preaching and teaching hatred to children in that school. shut the school down, open it up as a C of E school. Because then you can say to them, no, you had your chance, you blew it. We're shutting it down. Because what will happen then is the other mosques and the other schools are going to go, shit, they're serious. They're serious about this. They're not going to part with this from us. We're going to have to start towing the line here. And if you treat it like a petulant child, if you get a petulant child and you spoil it rotten, it grows into an obnoxious teenager. Islam, unfortunately, is no different. And our government has treated it with kid gloves. They've ruined and spoiled it, given it everything it wanted. There's only one way you can deal with that. You've got to start taking the toys away and making them earn it.
But, you know, you bring a really good point there. That goes again with, for me, I'm an old school kind of guy. I was a 70s child. I've got old school values. I was a 70s child. Now, there was a hard line when you was at school. They didn't mess about. I'll never forget one of my teachers, Mr. Pickford. I hope he's doing well, although he was not a very nice guy when I was growing up in school. Not to any of the pupils that kind of didn't toe the line, as it were. I'll never forget, in the days when I did have hair, I had a big afro. If you didn't toe the line, he would pick you up by your sideburns, and you were on your tiptoes pirouetting across the corridor. And it was that hard. I'm not advocating violence, but what's happened since then with students? Now, political correctness has come in. Now, you've empowered younger kids nowadays. So now, younger kids in schools can actually talk to teachers the way they want. And it doesn't matter. There's nothing that will come back on them. And to the point where if that teacher reacts in any way, he's out of a job or she's out of a job. Whereas that wasn't the case when I was growing up. Now, I'm not saying let's go back to that, but there's got to be somewhere in between, you know, because otherwise, like you just said, it is a spoiled baby scenario. If you don't show that spoiled baby who's actually in charge here, then you're going to empower them. When you empower them, this is what happens. And all we're doing, all the governments are doing, all the media is doing, is empower them in them, because radicalization, the hiding behind. Now, we've actually spoke about this before, Tony, that if the media was to have more of a no-nonsense stance on this, then the point you brought up before about maybe in February about bringing more women, and particularly the women within your organisation, to the fore at this march, how can you expect them to come out if the press are not even on their side? The press are like, well, you better not come out because don't be sticking up for these lot, because these lot are Nazis. So they're going to do this and just stay out the way. You know, it's like, you can't. We've got to have someone that's going to allow them the freedom to go, you know what, it's time for me to step up now, you know, and grow a pair of balls. But if I do that, I've got that paper that's going to celebrate me for it. So then before you know it, I might be a pin-up for it, but then that'll embolden somebody else to do the same thing. Before you know it, you've got a group of ex-Muslims that have had enough, that feel like 10 foot tall because they've got us saying, thank you for coming out, because I'm glad you've done it, because we appreciate it's not easy for you. And we've also got the press saying, well done, you guys, because you were speaking up for the values of the average person. But that is not happening. You've got a twofold, by your press and by both parties, or all the parties, because all they want to do is stay empowered and to be seen to be doing the right thing. And it's disgusting, because it's working against the common man.
And Phil's frozen for a minute. He'll come back again in a minute, you watch.
I will. Come back. There we go.
It's coming back. I'm just looking at some of the comments we're getting, and people saying things like, stop talking about this cancer and start giving therapy. How long do we go around in circles talking about what we all know? When is a movement going to man up and start taking action? Can I just say, the reason I get frustrated with people when they say things like this, I take action every sodding day. Every day when I go and see a girl who's been groomed, raped and trafficked, and I help scrape her damaged self up off that concrete slab, and I try to get her to understand that there's people at the other end willing to pull her through that emotional turmoil she's going through. When I go and see Muslim women who've been victims of Sharia law, that have been victims of forced marriage, and Christ knows what else. And I say to them, do you know what? We can do this together. I do get up and they talk about taking action. I take action every single sodding day. And quite frankly, those who say things like this, I'd like to say to them, what action do you take? What action are you taking? You talk about action, show me your action. And if you're talking about civil war, then ask yourself about the guys who fought against the IRA, whether or not they want a civil war. Because I know that from speaking to the vets, no, they don't want a civil war. It's the last thing they want. So we're trying to talk about possible solutions before it gets to that. We're trying to avoid getting to that. If that comes looking for us, will we be found wanting? Will we be found not ready to defend ourselves? Of course we won't. Of course we won't. You and I were both willing to defend ourselves. But these people
comes to that,
about all this, what do they do? Tell me what it is you do that you claim we're not doing. When I'm active every single sodding day, I do not take a day to myself. I haven't seen my mum for over a month. Every day I'm there. I'm either at somebody's home, I'm at court with them, I'm supporting them through that. I'm trying to give them encouragement. I help raise funds for them. I raise awareness of these grooming gangs. I'm trying to educate young people into why they, unfortunately, we live in a world where you have to take caution now when you're going out and socializing, because this can happen to you. I think that actually I'm taking action. I would say I'm not talking about it. I would say that I'm doing a bit more than talk about it.
Well, you know, I get this a lot myself. I get criticised because I don't go far enough. And people do, they have got problems with Islam per se. And I'm not going to say you shouldn't have that problems. Of course, people are so, they're so worried at this moment in time that they've got to be careful of how they regard this problem, because to me, this is a hearts and minds issue. Now, you're not going to win over the hearts and minds of people with rhetoric like that. Even if, you know, you feel that the rhetoric's not hard enough, you're still not going to do it. All you're going to do is feed into Theresa May, who's going to point at you and go, look, this is why we call you the far right.
This is why the far right are the problem. It's not the left, it's the far right. Everything I said about them is true. I'd rather prove her wrong.
Exactly. We're more intelligent than that, and that's what we're trying to do. It'd be so easy for me now to make a nice little baseball bat and a weapon and start slugging Muslims. Yeah, that'd be brilliant. But where's that going to get you?
No, I don't want to point out the obvious here, but I am quite happy to mention your golden brown skin on more than one occasion to make a point. There are people who would see you and assume you could be Muslim. Because some people cannot tell the difference between a Sikh, a Hindu, and a Muslim. So what you're going to have then is people going out and slugging people who could turn out to be you.
No. Well, that's 9 times out of 10, pardon my French, when the shit hits the fan, it's indiscriminate. And people don't tend to target the people that is actually responsible. People, it's just a free-for-all. So do these people, is that what they want, a free-for-all? Because if you want a free-for-all, then you're going to get it back anyway. They're already doing a free-for-all, so I can understand why, you know, you're disappointed and you feel that people like me or people like yourself are not going far enough. You know, what I regard is the government is not going anywhere near where we want to go. But for me, I'll go back again, it is a heart and mind. We've got to convince these trendies that are listening to the press and listening to the government to convince them that we are not as aggressive as the press is making us out. So the more these guys are on forums saying it's Islam this, Islam that, and I agree with you, there are fundamentally big problems within Islam that does need reforming. I totally agree. I'm not saying anything negative against that at all. All I'm saying is, how you go about it, you've got to be more intelligent. You've got to be softer in your line in order to gain the respect of the average person who's going to disagree with you off the bat. People disagree with me. I have friends who, even though people might consider me liberal in my thinking, I am more libertarian in my kind of way of thinking. But there's people I can't have this conversation with. So imagine if I'm walking around saying, ban Islam, this, that, and the other, get all the Muslims out. Yeah, that's going to really work. So you've got to use your head.
And also, to be honest with you, like I said in my speech when I was at the up in Edinburgh, I hold the government to account. The government as allowed. It's the pandering, it's the appeasement, it's the apathy. It is that is actually the truest enemy of all of us is our own government.
Yeah.
You've got to make the government sit up and listen, and you're not going to do that. And the thing is, what's interesting is talking about the left, because they are inherently a huge problem, is I was sent something over by Luke Nash-Jones. Okay, this is a new organisation apparently called Stop Funding Hate. But they've attacked, I'm assuming it's not physical, but they've attacked a charity that protects children from rapists. It says here, a new lefty organisation, Stop Funding Hate, has been attacking any business that advertises this Christmas with right-wing newspapers such as the Daily Mail. Today, they reached a new low by targeting the NSPCC, who campaign against child rape. However, it would seem that the left is so desperate for a chance to attack its political competition that it would oppose those who work to stop paedophilia. Is there no depths to which they will not sink? So for me, is there no depths they won't sink to? No. There isn't any depths they will not sink to.
Well, look how crazy the government is at the moment. You know, they're totally using this tweet business to kind of slap the British public back into submission. And it's bifold as well. They're giving another slap to Trump. You know, they're giving Trump has kind of presented a little bit of ammunition here, even though he's only tweeted something or retweeted something that is actual fact, you know, but unwittingly to him, the person that he's actually done it to or about has got a certain negative connotation as far as the government's concerned. So the government's gone, thank you very much, Trump. Not only do we want to bash you, but we've now got an excuse to bash the far right as well. So in a sense...
Yeah, it's literally, the government are taking this opportunity. He retweeted, regardless of who he retweeted, is irrelevant. He retweeted something, and as I said, 2 of those videos were factual and have been verified as being factually correct. And the fact is that what I found really ludicrous is instead of talking about the content of those videos, like a man being thrown off of a building, let's not talk about that. The statue of the Virgin Mary, and I'm an atheist, so it's not like I hold no religion in any high regard because I don't have a religion. I choose not to have one. But my country is a Christian country. And the fact that the Virgin Mary statue was being smashed to smithereens, let's not talk about that. No, let's make the most important thing is who he retweeted. Let's make them so important that it actually proves our point that the far right of the problem. That's what the government are doing. What we have to do is not allow them to drive us. Let's not give them what they want. You've got to, I think I said something to you when we met in Edinburgh, and I said, sometimes you have to take a word only. And I believe when they call you far right, it's just the opposite of wrong. So let's own the word right. You want to call me far right? Well, it's because you're so far fucking wrong. And that suits me fine. But people also have to understand that whether they like it or not, there are Muslims in this country that no more want Sharia law than we do. Many of them do not go to mosque or go to speak to an imam. They get on with their everyday life. They're not causing any harm to anyone. However, sadly, you can go to the Islamic text. So all of those who are extreme, and when you think, I did a video last night, 25,000 Islamic extremists in this country, Phil, 25,000.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
But if we want to address the 25,000 that are here, you have to give a place where those who are not extreme can come out with you and say, do you know what? They're right. They are right. We stand with you. We don't want these assholes here either.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go, all Muslims are bad, all Muslims are this, all Muslims are that, well, then what's the point of the likes of Raheel Raza? And I would say to anybody who's watching this right now, type in Raheel Raza and it's a video called By the Numbers. This is a Muslim woman breaking down why these extremists are such a problem. And actually, those who are not extreme are very few in their numbers. Very few, which is quite scary. But those few still need a voice. So let's not take their voice away. Let's give them a voice.
Well, like I say, for me, it's a heart and minds issue. And it's being won by the left. Because they are pandering, or they're playing the race card all the time, which is pandering to the liberal mentality of, we don't want any race to be affected by this. It's a very clever strategy that they are working with at the moment. So the best way to combat that is to use it as a judo move, not to run out and going, you're not going far enough, we want to ban all Muslims. Because that is not using your head. That is a pitchfork mentality, and we are never going to get this problem solved with a pitchfork mentality. Unfortunately, same again, there's a Streisand effect, I feel, that's coming with this, because the more that the government kind of slander everyone who's in this movement as far right, the more angrier people get, and it manifests and it comes out in anger and hate. Now, you've got to dress back that. As angry as you are, as full as you want to be in your rhetoric, you've got to pull back, and you've got to be clever in the way you... I'm not saying a wolf in sheep's clothing either. I'm saying you've got to do it cleverly and legitimately and try and win over people's minds. You're not going to win them over by saying every Muslim that's in this country is bad. Blah, blah, blah. This is a rhetoric that we did have for real 30, 40 years ago. When I felt that I was walking around as a black man, and everyone had the connotation of, what's he doing here? Taking all, you know, having relations with all our women and and you feel that you're not comfortable. You do feel that. So this rhetoric is only kind of making that happen even more to me. Now, I don't get it. You've got to be a bit more clever with what is going on. These guys are winning. So we've got to appreciate, why are they winning? They're winning because we're all getting angry and we don't know how to articulate ourselves properly. And of course, I can appreciate why people are angry. So I know by saying this, people are probably going, you know, screaming at the time, come on, Phil, come on, redpillphil, you're not going far enough. But I tell you what, the moment will come when it will hit the fan. And that is... we don't want that. None of us want that, because when it does happen, it will be indiscriminate, and there's going to be no winners out of that. But, well, I tell you, the winners will be. It will be the government, because same again, they can use this as a divide and conquer, and they can mop up and enforce an even bigger police state. They can put all kinds of sanctions on the internet, because we are a load of uncontrollable people that cannot control our emotions. Same again, I can appreciate why people are so angry. I mean, I spoke to you before about one of the subscribers that I've got that spoke to me. Now, he's one of my early subscribers. He's been nothing but supportive. And for me, I don't regard the geezer to be one bit racist. I've never met him personally, but I'm only going off the comments that he's made. He's been nothing but supportive, and he's helped me through from the point when I had 3 subscribers all the way up to nearly 4,000 subscribers now, which, by the way, hello to everyone and thank you. I really do appreciate what you're doing.
I did bring over about 4 to him.
But this geezer's, he private messaged me, and he's told me that his son's daughter, who's 13 years of age, he's just found out that has just got pregnant by a Muslim groomer. Now, this guy has gone from a very diplomatic, nice guy to wanting to do some harm, which is a natural response. You know, it is a natural response. Of course, I can't imagine what would happen if that was my kid. You know, so my heart goes out to him and the rest of his family and the poor girl in question. I hope it all gets resolved. But at the same time, you can never take back what has already happened. This has happened to that girl. This has happened to that family. You know, so even if you were to just give it a pill and everything's gone, it still happened. So we've got to resolve the problem, but we can't resolve it by all of a sudden dragging out taxi drivers because they're Asian, dragging out people from the shops because they're Asian. I watched a Facebook clip one time. It was a Scouser, and this was before they actually come out, as it were. It was all I think it was just after the Manchester event, but just before the actual UK Against Hate March. The geezer was articulate, but he was angry. And he's like, if you don't sort it out, I'm going to sort it out. We're going to get on the streets. And it's like, that is a pitchfork mentality. You're feeding into it. You are helping the government with that rhetoric. You've got to be more clever. I can't say that enough. And I will always come back to that, even if it does disappoint people.
I have to say, dealing with the girls that I deal with, on the regular basis that I deal with it, and seeing the devastation it causes to families, I cannot blame any father, brother, uncle, friend who wants to go out and target those who committed the act and literally string them up. I cannot blame them. I really cannot blame them for wanting to do that. If it was my daughter, trust me, I'd probably be the first one out there with my pitchfork at the ready. But my concern is, I'm quite happy for there to be, you know, you see these court cases going to court. I can remember watching the news as a little girl when Fred and Rose West got caught. And went, you know, there was literally thousands of parents were out there as those people were sentenced. And they were banging on the side of the van. They were, if they could have got their hands on them, those pair of bastards would be dead.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Now, I'm not saying I want people to go out and kill people. Of course I don't. But what I can't understand is that where are they when it comes to these court trials? Why isn't there thousands outside the courts? That's where you protest then, isn't it? Mm. Outside those courts. Mm. When you know a case has come to court, get out there in your thousands. But how many of these people who talk about civil war, civil unrest, they want the war, they're ready for the war, they're ready to start killing people, how many of them are sitting at home typing that out on their keyboard in the comfort of their home? It's not their daughter, mate. They're not the one trying to hold a family together. They're not the ones dealing with the emotional devastation it causes. The families who are dealing with it, they're the ones that are going through it. They're already having their war. It's happening right now for them. So I get where it comes from. And I do think that what I find amazing is how many women have got children. Where the hell are you? Where are you? And this is why when I did my speech, I called out the femifascists. And I told them, you do not represent women like me. And you never will speak for women like me. Mm. So where are all the women? If you can get 40, 50,000 lads out that all support football, what about their wives, their girlfriends, when they're at home looking after the children because you're out on your march? So why don't you have a day where all the dads have the kids and let's get the women out there? Mm. Because imagine the government suddenly not with a mob of angry men, but a mob of really pissed off mothers, sisters, grandmothers, the whole blue rinse brigade. Yeah. What are the government going to say then?
You know, I can't speak.
The Saturday, there's nobody there. There's nobody in Westminster on a Saturday.
I can't speak for all women. I can speak for my wife. There's no way you're going to get my wife out in this current climate. I'll tell you that now. My wife just wants to get along to be along. She just wants to live that life. And you know, when she looks at all the aggression and people saying things like this, you've got even less chance of her getting out. And you've got more chance of her worrying about me being in this climate. Now, I'd like to think I'm pretty clever enough where I can make the distinction between the two. And I am still in the middle of all this, listening to people on the side with the pitchforks, and on the other side, people who are going, you know what, I'm just a normal geezer, I'm just a normal lady, I just want to live my life, but problems, you know, and you can see. So I'm trying to kind of articulate the two. I could quite easily go, you know what, guys, I'll leave you to your civil war. It don't bother me. I'll just go and whatever. I'll just go and live my life because you guys are nuts. And you're going to get what you want. You are going to get your civil war talking like that. And not only that, the police are going to beat down on you. And not only that, you've got your kids that have then got to mop up the crap that you have made for them. So you've got to be careful how you react in these situations. It's too easy to let your emotions get in front of you there. It's too easy.
And do you know what? So, I mean, Bart, bless him, sweet guy. He's just said, Tony, don't confuse understanding reasons for violence with justifying violence. Trust me, there is no confusion. I understand why people want to get violent, get it completely, but I won't justify violence. I don't think violence is the answer right now that we need. I think what we need right now, and I see this, it's a bit like with they say, the right won't unite, the right won't unite. It's not because the right won't unite, it's because the right have morals, the left have not. So if you and I would say I'm centre right. That's how I would kind of view myself. Now, somebody who's centre right, if there was an organisation that was extremely hard right, with some really unpleasant views that I don't share and I don't agree with, I'm not going to have nothing to do with them, because morally goes against everything I believe. The left, on the other hand, don't give a toss about whether or not somebody that they're sitting next to has got extreme views or wants to kill all of the white men. They don't care. They have no morals. We do. And that's why when people talk about you can't get the right to unite, it's morals. Morals, people take up their stances morally. So actually those on the right have higher morals than those on the left. And as we saw in Edinburgh, those on the right, far more diverse. We're standing there with Bangladeshi apostates, yourself, Janaya, who obviously is also mixed race, Shazia, mixed race. You know, there was more women there as well than there was on the left, and the left is standing there saying we are black, white, Jew, we are Muslim, we are everything. According to them, they were the Rainbow Nation, but they were all white, porridge, skin-coloured, grey. They were rather grey-coloured. They did look like cold porridge. You've got to be honest, their skin looked like cold porridge. That could be the Edinburgh sun or that hot. But they were middle-aged, mostly middle-aged white guys with white hair who wanted to, you know, to tell us that we're all racist. Well, hello, take a look around you, the people that have studied. And that's another reason why I can't endorse a violent reaction, because when you stand and you talk to the people like the Faisal Islam and the other Bangladeshi apostates that were there, who would know that they don't follow Islam anymore? Who would know?
True.
So what are we going to do? We're going to, and people talk about Islam being the fastest growing religion in the world. I want to make this very clear. If you could actually measure the amount of Muslims that have left Islam, it's also the fastest dying religion. But an apostate, the punishment for leaving Islam is death. So they can't come out and say they've left Islam. So actually, I couldn't have applauded those lads enough for the courage they had in being there that day, when you don't know if you could have had some extreme hard right white supremacist could have turned up and targeted them, or you could have had somebody hard left who sees them as a sellout, could have targeted them, on top of the fact that Muslims could have targeted them. These men, and Shazia, who's also an apostate, took their lives into their hands to speak up. Let's give them a voice. Give them a voice. The more apostates that come out, the more diverse we become, the more the left and the government are left with egg on their face. I'd rather make them look stupid.
Yeah, well, that is a heart and mind thing again. If you can do that and you do it well, you prove your point better. I'm not going to prove my point by shaking my fist at people and just getting angry because they're saying something I don't agree with. You know, otherwise, that first video that I supposedly, you know, it went viral and whatnot, everyone who I've spoke to have said, I don't know how you kept me cool there. I'd have done this, I'd have done that, I'd have done this, I'd have done that. What would have happened if I would have done that? It would have resorted to, oh, look, you've gone to hit women. Well, she's just called me a Nazi. Well, you can't hit women. So I've lost the argument straight away, even though in my own world I had total validity to kind of go and do that. Now, luckily for her, I'm a chivalrous kind of guy. Luckily for her, I do live with the philosophy, sticks and stones will break my bones. And luckily for her, that I'm not one that kind of gets into a rage. I can kind of pull it a little way back and kind of go, right, I'll use my head a little bit here. Even if it means saying nothing at this point and walking away because I don't know what to say, because I am on the verge of knocking her out. You know, it's still kind of pulling back and using your head. The EDL, don't forget what was going on there. Now, some people might agree with what the EDL stands for. I don't, it's nothing to do with me. I'm having nothing to do with it. I'm only going off some of the rhetoric that was about when I watched footage of that day. There was a lot of guys that were mean looking, the rhetoric was mean, and it was all about aggression and literally get them. And it's like, that ain't a hearts and minds philosophy at all. You ain't gonna get your most mild-mannered person to think along your side with that rhetoric. They will walk away because they think you're violent and aggressive. And even if you've got just cause to be like that, they will not accept that as the way forward. That is not the way forward. So we've got to be a little bit more cleverer. And this is why we've got interviews like this where we're sat talking. We could quite easily sit and slag off Islam all night. But what's that going to do? That's just going to make us look like haters.
I'd be more than happy. I mean, for me, look, I'll slag off any religion, and that includes Islam, because I have no time for any religion. The difference is only one wants me dead when I do so. That is the huge difference here. Yeah. You and I could sit and talk about Christianity, Judaism. We could sit in a cafe and debate it in a very negative light, and nobody's going to want to kill us.
No, you're right. It's exactly right. I mean, you've got every kind of religion that's got its extremes. Catholicism, you know, look what happened back in the day when they went through Mesoamerica, holding the cross up. They seen them as a load of barbarians and wiped them all out. So it's like you cannot have that extreme ideology, and they've all got it. So I'm not holding my hand up and saying, "Oh, sweet G," you know. I'm not even saying people who practice that. I'm saying that no matter what ideology you've got, you can't categorize everyone in that, because it's all a level of interpretation. Now, I know some people regard that as some form of cop-out. And maybe, I don't know, it's not for me to say, but I do know that I know some decent Catholics, I know some decent Protestants, I know some decent Muslims, and that's just the way it is. You know, and I know some decent people who don't practice any of it. We are all human beings. You cannot do that. You can't generally sweep. Because if you're going to do that, let's call every black person, just because some black geezers just robbed a white girl around there. Let's call every white person because, you know what, the Irish blew up Manchester in the 90s. So that's it. Ireland's off the map and let's blow them up. You can't do that. And it's common sense. So these guys have just got to take a chill pill, even if they're angry, they've got to take a chill pill and then vent it properly and intelligently.
I will say, though, that I will be the first to defend my country as a Christian country, even though I'm an atheist. My values, my culture, my way of life come from Christianity. I'll be the first to defend it wholeheartedly, without a doubt, as I'm sure you would you.
Yeah.
What I want people to try, what I get frustrated with is when people are going, we need a war, we need a war. What do you do, Tony? What do you do? And I want to sit there and go, mate, you couldn't cope with a day in my life. You couldn't seriously cope with a day in my life. And those who could, don't. That's the long and the short of it. Those who can, don't. And there are people out there that are doing lots of different things. And it's not just girls that have been groomed and raped. I've got men in touch with me that were raped. I've got girls that are in touch with me that were raped. I've got girls in touch with me that were imprisoned and tortured. I've got women in touch with me that were opportunistically raped, that were basically dragged down alleyways. I've got young girls in touch with me that have been victims of sexual abuse. And I get that, you know, I do. I get all of that. I go to bed at night and sometimes I can't sleep because my brain is thinking, what can I do tomorrow to make that girl who I've just spoken to, who can I contact? Who do I go to? Okay, ring this number tomorrow. I mustn't forget. I'm writing lists of things I need to do the following day to help that girl. So when people say to me, what do you actually do, Tony? What do you do for your country? Well, I'm doing something every single day, every day. So I get frustrated when they say that to me, because it belittles what I do, and it belittles the people I do it for. And that frustrates me. And some of these girls, they're not all white, but predominantly are white. And they are targeted predominantly by Pakistani men. But some of the men have been Iranian, Kurdish, Somalian. And this is my point of, I get why people are angry. I get why people want blood. Of course I get it. I totally see where they're coming from. But the left want you to do that.
You're making it easy for them.
To do that, because the minute you do, you will bring in, the government will bring in, why do you think Boris Johnson went and bought water cannons? Even though he was advised not to, that's not to stop the left, that's to stop the right. But if we're going to do protests and marches, get behind our vets, because those are the guys that when that civil war finds you, and trust me, you don't have to go looking far for it, it's going to come to you anyway.
Yeah.
But when that time comes, they're the guys I want on my side. They're the guys that I want there to help me and to help you, and to know that actually there's a right and a wrong way of doing things. But if we can't even bring out numbers to support our vets, what does that say about our opinion of our vets?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Am I wrong to be pissed to not see 10,000 people out there?
These are the vets that have actually returned home, Tony. Yeah. How many of them have not returned home? Or they've turned home with some of the limbs missing? Or some of them that, you know, literally can't leave the house. Some of them that have got that much psychological problems, they will never be right again. You know, so we've got to remember, yeah, no one wanted the war on terror as far as I was concerned. The public really kicked off at the time, because this was a war that was perpetrated by governments. It wasn't a war that was perpetrated by the people. Now, we are in danger of being wound up here and then pull the cord and watch everyone run about. And we are reacting, or not we are, but a lot of people are reacting very, you know, predictively. Being, you know, it's so wide open the way they're going to act. And for me, you have think tanks that know that exactly the reaction that they're going to get from the public by steering a narrative a certain way and this, and they know, they can foresee what the next 15 years is going to be, and they might foresee some kind of riots kind of going on, because they regard us as the proletariat, they regard us as a small people, they regard us as people that have got very little intelligence, so we are easily manipulated. So if
I'm just looking at a comment here, Phil, sorry, but I don't know whether this person's taking a piss or not. Rupert Murdoch, Scottish descent, is a Jew. Now, well, you don't become a Jew. Muslims are Jews. Redpillphil is a Jew.
Of course.
There's a few monsters hiding under my bed. I'm hoping this is said in a sense of humour. But there are people who go on about the right-wing Jews. And quite frankly, me and my friend, actually, we got a little bit to the point where we were referring to them JOOS or JUICE. And this guy's obviously having a joke, because what happens is the Jews get the blame for everything. Okay, they'll say the Rothschilds, it's the Rothschilds. Who owns all the banks? Who's got the most money? Well, actually, there's a guy called what's his name? Is it Bates? Something Bates, who's actually the richest man in the world. And he's not a Jew.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. But he's not a Jew. So this whole Jew conspiracy, I do find it quite funny. I'd like to see the Jews out with us. I've got to be honest, I would love to see the Jewish community out with us and saying enough is enough, because there's a lot of Jews in my country being driven out of my country, and they are leaving in huge numbers. And yet the truth is, there's no mass grooming by Jews in my country. Now, I do know there was a problem within the Jewish community, and it was actually a rabbi that called it out. I don't agree with Beth-Din courts any more than I agree with Sharia courts. One law for all. English law. That's it. There should only be one law in this country. I don't believe in having Beth-Din police. We don't need it. We have a police force. But our police force is so dumbed down with political correctness that they're in a stranglehold.
Yeah.
And in order to give them, you know, when they say, oh, you know, all these people, you're not making our police officers' jobs any easier. And I get a little bit tired of people who say things like, you know, the police this and the police that, and the police are all bastards and wankers and everything else. Because the minute your kid goes missing, you'll ring the police. The minute your house is burgled, you're going to ring the police. The minute that your car is scratched or damaged because somebody's hit it, you'll ring the police. So you can't in one breath hate on the police, but then expect them to serve you when you're the victim. Now, there is failures within the police force. Don't get me wrong, Phil, there is. There's huge failures.
Of course there is. Of course.
But it's a hierarchy. Anything above sergeant. That's where the problem comes. Again, it's political correctness. That is the cancer of this country, is political correctness. And what you and I are doing is breaking down that barrier and saying, do you know what? Here's a guy who happens to be this lovely shade of brown, and here's this pasty-faced, pale, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, Aryan-looking bitch, right? And then
who has got the determination of a chieftain tank? Let's put it that way. You know what I mean?
One of the guys actually was in Edinburgh, who I call my haggis hero. He actually referred to me as a Spitfire today, right? And I thought, okay, I'll take that one. That's not really an insult to me. I'll take that. But I have got passion, and I have got drive, and I have got the right over wrong, not left over right. You know, the left are not right at all. We're right. So they can call me right, they can call me far right. I'll own that, that's fine by me. But don't tell me that I can't have an issue with Islam itself. I can. That doesn't mean I hate all Muslims. Like I said, if people go on to marias.org.uk, that's my website. They will see blogs on there by Muslim women, written by Muslim women. So the whole you must hate all Muslims because you dislike Islam is nonsense. It is nonsense. I can hate, despise, loathe any faith.
Well, by that logic,
Catholicism, but my brother's a Catholic.
Well, exactly. I mean, by that logic, because we had an epidemic, or maybe still, of paedophilia in this country, and particularly when I was younger, which is now coming out in history as well, there was a lot of priests, you know, men of the cloth, doing a lot of nasty things with young boys and taking advantage. By that logic, then, let's bring Catholicism. So everyone who's a Catholic, you know what? You've been stood there listening to that guy preach. So, you know what? You're just as much to blame. Now, that's the logic there. Now, if I was to present that to someone, they would look at me and go, are you absolutely stupid? Why am I to blame for what he's done? But that's what you're doing. Why is every Muslim to blame for what people are doing? You know, is the Islamicist, jihadists.
What I would say, though, is they can't turn around and say that Islam isn't to blame. They can't. As much as they want to, they can't. And I've had this discussion with Fozia and with Rahim. And whether we like it or not, you have, I know, Phil, you're sort of new to this, and I've been talking to you a little bit about it, because Phil and I we gag on the phone for hours.
I've talked to you over the past 2 weeks, probably more than my wife. To be honest with you.
Yeah, it's all right though, because she likes me too.
Yes, she met you tonight. She's fine. And you don't support football, and I guess if you were anything other than a United fan, then it might turn the relationship sour a little bit. So other than that, my wife is a mad red, even more so than I am. I can sit back. So the fact that you're non-partisan when it comes to football, you're good in her books. Unless you're a United fan, then she would love. Does it make
it all right that I don't like football?
It makes it fine if you don't like football, because it means you're not going to
go against the England World Cup, and I cheer my boys on them.
That's absolutely brilliant. We're all on the same team there, aren't we?
Absolutely. It comes to England playing in the World Cup, mate. I sit in front of my team, and I'm like that. Yeah, so when they cock it up, I go, why? Why did you do that, you silly man? So, but I was talking to you about abrogation, whereby the later verses in the Quran supersede the earlier verses. Now, the earlier verses are all your beautiful, lovely, peaceful verses that Sufis tend to live their life by. The later verses are the verses of the swords and the verses of violence. Now, because of the way it's written, and it's not written chronologically, those later verses replace those earlier verses. So therefore, when they believe they are in a state of jihad, which a lot of Muslims, not all, but a lot of Muslims genuinely believe they are in a state of jihad, they have the right to take that which their right hand possesses, which is referring directly to sex slaves. I believe that's what we saw with Rotherham, Telsley, Stevenage, Oxford, Birmingham, you name it. I believe that's what we're seeing. On top of that, you've got the fact that they can justify going out and targeting a particular type of girl. They targeted Sikh girls to start with. There was a lot of Sikh girls targeted. They referred to that as love jihad. And then the Sikhs came out. The Sikhs came out violently. And who can blame them? They did come out violently. They then moved it on to targeting predominantly white girls. And on the whole, it is. But if anybody here thinks for 1 second that Muslim girls aren't being raped, they're wrong. It's happening. One Muslim lady who I spoke to was forced to marry her rapist, Phil, because in accordance to Sharia law, a raped woman is the one who carries the shame. She is the one who has done wrong, because in their eyes, a woman must produce 4 male witnesses to testify to rape. And even if she gets 4 male witnesses, she still had sex outside of marriage, which in Islamic countries means she has to either be, if she's committed adultery, she gets 1,000 lashes. If she's not committed adultery, but it was rape, she'll get 1,000 lashes. However, if it was rape, I can't remember which way around it is now. If it's rape, then she gets 1,000 lashes because she was still sex outside of marriage. But if it wasn't rape, she gets stoned to death. Mm-hmm. So when Fawzia Rashid wrote the blog on my website about the investigation into Sharia law courts in this country, and she turned around and she said, look, Sharia law cuts off hands, it cuts off feet, it stones women to death, it throws gays from buildings. It may not be happening here now, but it will if you don't stop it now. Now, these are Muslims. Of course I'm going to give them a voice. Of course I want to empower those Muslim women. Absolutely I want to empower them. Because if you empower Muslim women, you will disempower the misogynistic Muslim men who think that kind of mentality is acceptable. And that, again, it pushes again against this rhetoric of the so-called right, hate all Muslims. Clearly, people like me, I don't. I want to see Muslim women empowered. I don't want a woman coming to me like I've had with Tanvir, who came to me and said, you know, I was raped. I came over from Pakistan. My son was in college here. I wanted to learn business studies to go back to Pakistan to open up a hotel. She was a married woman with children. When she got here, the guy who'd helped to get her son into college raped her, he drugged her, he raped her, and he filmed it. And he told her, this is a guy at your family in Pakistan, which meant she couldn't go back to Pakistan because now her family want her dead.
Yes.
Because she carries the shame of rape, not him. And because she carries the shame of rape, the only answer for them is she has to marry the man who raped her.
Oh, what?
So she ends up married to the very man who raped her. Now I'm saying, let's empower these women and tell them, actually, you don't have to put a win on that shit because English law will protect you. But when you get somebody like Fawzia is another example. Fawzia was 16 years old. She was sent out to Karachi. She believed it was for a holiday for doing really well in her exams. As she got off the airplane in Karachi, her uncle stuck a gun in her head, took her by gunpoint and forced her to marry her first cousin. As soon as she got to the UK, she went to the police. She went to every police force. The police said, well, we can't do anything about it because it's Sharia law. It's out of our... And they're right. What can they do? It's Sharia law. So Sharia law superseded the law of the land. So we need to go after shutting down Sharia law courts in this country. And any mosque found operating a Sharia law court, shut it down. Shut it down, shut it down. If you protect Muslim women and you empower Muslim women, you will disempower the very men that think this kind of mentality is acceptable. And if that doesn't make me common sense, I don't know what does.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. I mean, it's ironic. Last night I attended a meal with some good right-wingers. A very nice meal. It was a lovely event over in Huddersfield. Come back home. Obviously, it was quite late when I got home. Went to bed, woke up the next day. The wife's like, "Oh, do you have a good time?" Yeah, we started to proceed to chat about it. She goes, "Oh, you never know. You never guess what happened last night." I said, "What?" Now, ironically, over the road from us, there's a Muslim family that's bought a house. Now, I've noticed a pattern over a few weeks that the women are very, very much in the background. You don't see them. You'll see the men that congregate outside. You'll see other members that will kind of come with them. They're all smoking cigs, chatting away. And the women are pretty much second-class citizens from the way I see it, in terms of they're not really, you know, they're talking to the men. The women stay with the women. You only ever see the women when they're kind of going from A to B, whatever they're doing. Now, I'm not sure exactly whereabouts they're from. So I've not, because they do keep themselves to themselves, which is another bugbear of mine. I feel that no matter what your religion, you should be able to come out your door and go, "You're all right, mate, and then just get on with your business." You know, we're all living in the same boat. We're all getting kind of, you know, done over by the same system. Now, my wife proceeds to tell me that one of the women last night started smashing up the car, their cars, the men's cars. Now, I said to her, I said, "Well, what was all that?" I said, "I don't know." So she just kind of went into just crazy mode. She had this hammer. She started smashing this one window, potted that, and then went round to the windscreen, started potting that. Now, I still don't know really what's happened. It could be anything, so I can't really say too much other than that. But I've seen a pattern of how almost little regard that they have. Women are second-class citizens because of the way, if I was to treat my wife the way they treat this family, treat the women in this, as in the women always stay together and they're never seen with the men. There doesn't seem to be much love and respect and, you know, camaraderie between the two. It just seems to be, you're the woman, we're the men, we stay over there, you stay over there, and don't you dare come out of the house unless you need to. And it was almost like that. Now, I seen her this morning cleaning up the stuff, because they're obviously very clean people, believe it or not. They seem to have some kind of OCD, so I see them cleaning around the house and whatnot. But she was out this morning cleaning the car. Now, my youngest daughter saying to me, "What do you reckon it was all about?" I said, "Well, I can't really say, darling, because we don't really know." She actually said to me, "Is she a psychopath?" Because it looks apparent that she's the one with the problem because of what had happened. But she doesn't know what I've noticed with my own eyes since they've moved in. That women are not really seen out in public. That house, they're not really seen. I'm not saying they're bad people. I don't know what they're doing. All I know is that they're not really part of the community. I will say that, which is not very nice for me. And if the whole street was like that, then my God, where would we be? But I'm just pulling off your point there that the women are treated like garbage in some cases. Now, I can't say for every case. You know, I'm sure there may be some cases where you've got a man and woman who are both Muslims and they have got true love and affections for one another. I can't general sweep like that. It's totally wrong. But I can only see what I've seen with my own eyes. The cars are still outside with potted windscreens, and she was the one who cleaned it all up. You know, and it's like, you won't see it again now. Now, ironically, within an hour of that happening, now I don't know, I'm not going to say anything more about that, but she said, my wife said, ironically, there was a paramedic van and an ambulance within an hour of that happening. Draw your own conclusions. I'm not going to say anything because I can't. And I'm not even going to say, well, I'm not even trying to steer it towards anything. I'm just telling you what I've seen with my own eyes, that the women do not mingle with the men. They stay with themselves. And there is many occasions when I've seen the women outside absolutely screaming. And there's other women within, you know, the Muslim community there that are saying, no, and it's almost like they're not happy about something and they're not arguing with each other. It's like one is trying to say something and they're trying to empower themselves, or something's happened to them that they're not happy with, but the other women are going, shh, 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 come on, get out of here, no, and kind of try to make her submissive. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Now, that's how it looks to me. I may be 100% wrong, but...
No, you're right.
It doesn't look that way.
No, you are right. And unfortunately, there are Muslim women who are extreme. Absolutely. Apparently, Jason Coleridge, he loves me. Right back at you, Jason. It's always nice to be told you loved. Somebody has to love you. It is Christmas after all.
Oh, well.
I know.
You are loved. You're loved by everyone. Why aren't you? How can anyone not recognise?
Not loving us so much, Phil. There are a few on there not loving us so much. But you know what? I can deal with that.
You've got to love the haters still, though, haven't you? You know.
Do you know what? I guarantee it'll be either a left or it'll be a hardline Muslim, or it's going to be a hard white person. You know, your extreme white supremacist. It's going to be one of them. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, I've just seen somebody. I think somebody is accusing Jerry Adams of being a Zionist.
Right.
Yeah, that's so funny. But I do think that you are right. You are 100% right in what you say. Muslim women are dumbed down. And there are Muslim women, normally the ones wearing the burqa are quite hardline. But there are also those who don't want to wear the burqa and are forced to wear the burqa. One young apostate who contacted me, because I think I've got 50 apostates in touch with me at the moment, who all live a double life, because they cannot say they've left Islam because their family will kill them. And one of them is a young 16-year-old girl, and if she has so much as a strand of hair showing, she's beaten by her father. If a boy comes out of school and says hello to her, she's beaten by her father. This is where we can't separate the chaff from the wheat. They need to step up to the plate. They need to separate the chaff from the wheat. And those who are not extreme, get your backsides out there with the likes of me and the vets and Maria's and, you know, the FLA. You all need to get your asses out there together. You cannot do this alone. And we can't do it unless you stand up and show us that actually this is the proportion that are not extreme. The only way you drive out extremism is you have to give a voice to the Muslim women. You have to give a voice to the girls groomed and raped. You have to give a voice to the apostates who live in double lives or are living in fear or take their lives into their hands every time they do something. Somebody's just put ban the burqa. I will point out, I'm actually known, very well known. I stood as police and crime commissioner in Bedfordshire in the elections. And one of the things that I became very unpopular for is I said I would ban the burqa without drawing breath. And the Labour incumbent took out a whole newspaper. It was a whole little mini newspaper, £3,000 worth he spent on it, and delivered them across Bedfordshire. And he said, ban the Bugle, not the burqa. And I went, thanks very much for the free advertising.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
You probably just won me a lot of votes.
Yeah, yeah. If people can't see that the burqa is a sign of oppression against women, then, you know, if they're not allowed to show one strand of hair without getting beaten to a pulp, and then say, you know, they get a slap in the street, say a white lady happens to notice, or a white man, or a black man for that, notices that across the street, calls the police and goes, listen, I've just noticed. And then maybe, you know, this woman's on the floor, blood pouring out or whatever. This woman grabs this woman, drags the Muslim lady off and goes, right, you're coming in our house now because I'm getting you away from him because he's absolutely nuts. What we need is for the system to then kick in and go, you know what? When the police arrive, the police have got to take her and take her account seriously, as if I've just assaulted someone or someone has assaulted me, and take that situation seriously. But you know the way it is now. All they're going to do is get that woman and go, thank you for making the complaint, and then they're going to take that lady straight back to the house and go, there you go.
They do that because Sharia law forbids a woman to go to UK law. This is why you've got to get rid of Sharia law, because while Sharia law exists in this country, you perpetuate the problem. If you get rid of Sharia law, for example, I know that our police officers are told, there's a guy on my website, if people go on there and look him up, a guy called Jonathan Nicholas. Jonathan Nicholas was 30 years serving police officer, now retired. And he served on the front line. But I know from other officers that I've spoken to, they are told, if you get a phone call to go to an Asian house, we'll do that in brackets, Asian, because I hate that term. But if you get a phone call to go to an Asian's house on a possible domestic violence situation, do not speak to the woman, speak to the man. Now, Jonathan Nicholas got such a call where he went and he spoke to the husband, and the husband went, no, everything's fine. So he drove away. 30 minutes later, the woman was carted off in an ambulance, beaten beyond recognition. Why are we allowing this kind of shit to be put onto our police officers? Because if you, myself, if I was in a relationship, which I'm not, but if I was, and it was a white guy, and I ring the police because he's beating the crap out of me, the police would turn up at that door, they'd take one look at me, one mark at me. It could be that I'm the lunatic. It could be that I've done the attacking. It could be that all the mark on my face is because he was defending himself from me cracking him with a saucepan. That is a possibility. They don't question that. The minute they see a mark on me, they automatically arrest him. He is taken to the police station and he is questioned. Why is it okay for them to do that with someone like me, but when it comes to going to a Muslim's house or an Asian's house, they have a different set of rules? Why are we telling our police officers they've got to do that?
Yeah, it's not fair. And you're leaving that woman to be persecuted even more. You know, I mean, how is that woman being helped in any way in that situation? You know, she's just being wheeled back in. And imagine the life of a Muslim lady when they've got to live like that. It's so dire. Now, I'm sure that they don't want that, even though they are indoctrinated into thinking maybe, you know, this is the norm and this is, you know, there's nothing I can do about it. But that makes me feel sad. I don't know what possessed that lady to take to that hammer and take out 2 driver's side windows and take 2 windscreen out, 2 cars that belonged to them, might I add. There wasn't just random cars. I do feel she was rebelling against whatever events that had happened in that house, against certain men in that house. That's what I do believe. Because I've heard different arguments before going back to that, and I've heard women out there before. And when the women are out there, the men are not out there. And when the men are out there, the women are definitely not out there. So there's this kind of bit of Stockholm syndrome going on, mixed with a little bit of just sheer abuse, mixed with a bit of sheer intimidation. That's not a relationship. Now, some people might say, oh, well, that's Islam for you. I can't say that because I'm not into Islam, but I know, I would almost say for sure that I can't imagine everyone in Islam feels that way and treats their lady that way, although there are some repressive issues within Islam and Sharia law that do need to be spoke about. But at the same time, you're living in England. You're not living in the Middle East. So we have to adopt our traditions. Leave all that Sharia shit at the freaking tarmac.
The problem with what I feel is, how do you do that when you've got a government? I mean, for example, when Lee Rigby was murdered, Adebola and Adebola were quoting the Surah Toba, right? They were directly quoting it. And they turned around and said, there will be no peace for your women, for your men here, while you're in Islamic countries, while you're doing this, while you're doing that, while you've got foreign policy. And the first thing that David Cameron did when he came out, all David Cameron had to say when he came out onto those steps is, we will not tolerate terrorism of any kind. He didn't say that. He came out and he said, this has nothing to do with Islam. It had everything to do with Islam because he can go to the text, he can justify his actions, he can literally go to the very quote and go, well, there you go, actually it's within my right to do so. Because I believe I'm in a state of jihad, I'm in a state of holy war with the West, therefore I can. So they can justify it. 100% they can justify it. That doesn't mean to say every Muslim goes out and does that, but it can be done. And I think converts actually are dangerous because they cannon fodder for the extremists that wish nothing more than, well, look, we won't send our brother in to go and get killed. Well, we'll send the convert because he's cannon fodder. We don't care. He's not a true Muslim, so we'll get him bopped off anyway. And it's the same when it comes to the grooming gangs. Many of these girls are called white whore, white trash, white slag, and a word that now is popping up, and I've picked up on this a lot, is the word gory. Now, Shazia will tell you the word gory means white. That's why her book is called The Gory's Daughter, because her father was Pakistani, her mother was white. She was always referred to as the Gory's daughter. So often these girls are called gory slags. Again, not one girl's ever had their case recognised as being racially motivated. Not one. But put the boot on the other foot and take a group of white guys going out and targeting predominantly Pakistani Muslim women. What do you think they're going to call it? They're going to say it's racially motivated, no questions asked. I want it to be equal down the line. These girls have as much right to feel protected, safe and secure in this country and protected by the law as anybody else, but they're not. Often these girls, when their police were alerted, were called known prostitutes when they were 14. Well-known prostitutes at the age of 14. Police officers failed to act. But what it was is, and those police officers who went, okay, well, we've got the information, we've gathered up all the evidence, take it to our superiors, who passes it up the ladder to his superior, who passes it up to his ladder to superior, and suddenly nobody ever hears about it again. Suddenly it's disappeared into the void. Then there's evidence going missing. Then there's clothes going missing. All crucial evidence disappearing. This happens a lot. And when you open links up again, like I opened yesterday, another police officer, a Muslim police officer in Durham, has now been to court for rape. Now, I'm not saying you don't get white rapists who are police officers, white paedophiles that are police officers, but there is the percentages. People talk about there's more white rapists than there are. Yes, because we're still the sodding majority. But if Muslims are 5% of the population, over 28% of the inmates in our prisons are Muslim. That is staggering. That is a staggering number. And if it was the other way around, we'd all be going, whoa, this is some new age shit. We need to be dealing with this. But what they do is our government make excuses. They make excuse after excuse after excuse not to actually address the problem. By coming out and saying, it's nothing to do with Islam. Islam is a religion of peace. And yet Imam Tawhidi in Australia will tell you, whilst, yes, Islam has religious parts of it that are peaceful, we cannot also ignore the fact it's also a religion of war. It's a religion of both. If Taj Hargi can say that, who's a British Imam, and he's saying you need to look at this side of it as well, you cannot ignore this part of it, then I fail to see how they expect anything to be resolved when all they keep telling us when we say anything is, oh yeah, but you've got Islamophobia.
It's an irrational fear, the word phobia, and there's nothing irrational about being concerned. There's nothing irrational about now looking at your city when you go to a Christmas market and you see bomb bollards and you see armed police walking past. Does that, you know, what's irrational about that? That's what I don't understand, and I never will understand. And what's irrational about the leader of the free world retweeting something that is absolutely verified, that is absolutely shocking to his core? You know, if he retweeted a tweet about young boys being sodomized, are you going to demonize him for that? You can't. It's just common sense.
And the other thing is, you know, when the Catholic priest did that film, I did not see one Catholic, not one, turn around and go, well, it's not a true Catholic priest.
Yeah.
Nobody ever came out with that. Not one Irish person came in and went, it's not a true Catholic priest, though. They went, dirty, filthy, raping, scumbag Catholic priest. Nobody danced around it. But when it comes to Muslim grooming gangs, they want to call them agent. But when Sadiq Khan became the mayor of London, they said, London, first Muslim mayor. So you're a Muslim when you do something good. When you do something bad, they want to go, oh, he's not a true Muslim, man. Now, that shit don't cut no ice with me, sunshine. I'm having none of that. That is complete bullshit. When they go to prison, they get an imam, a Quran, a prayer mat, prayer beads, halal meat, Eid, Ramadan. I'm saying that's a practicing Muslim. Now, there might be Muslims that are doing bad shit, but he's still a Muslim. And Toni will say that, Rahil will say that, Fawzi will say that, we will say that, the left will say it's not a true Muslim.
You kind of, you know, you dumbfound me at times, Toni, and you do this on the phone every time you talk to me. You kind of leave me there going, right. It's brilliant, but it's brilliant. This is why I regard people like you, the work that you do is so important, and the people that you're working with. You know, you could not be better placed to do what you're doing. The mentality that you've got, the determination that you've got, and being able to distinct the difference between, you know, the aggressors and peaceful people, and at the same time, being resolute on your ideals. I think you're absolutely perfect. You're right down the line. And, you know, I just find that going back to the Trump thing again, we are in a situation now, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. And you've got, it will, yeah, you know, in a world of universal deceit. And you've got a guy there that is unilaterally hated by everyone, pretty much, particularly the media. Now, he's hated by the media. They didn't want him in power. So the best thing we can do is just keep bashing him, bashing him, bashing him. And even when it's illogical, we'll keep bashing him all the time. Now, I find that really disappointing, really disingenuous, and it's stifling any progress going forward. And it's creating an effect which is getting to the pitchfork mentality again, going back to that. Now, you don't blame the messenger. You don't blame the message. It's not, you know, it's a messenger. Now, the bottom line is you cannot do this. We cannot keep this going all the time. There's going to be some kind of resolute somewhere down the line that I'm feeling slightly uncomfortable with. I must admit, you must feel it as well. With all the work you do, forgive the saying, but you must feel as if you're pissing in the wind at times with the way it is, being called what you're being called, even though the majority of people you're actually working with are ex-Muslims. You're more versed on the, you know, the Quran and Islam than most people, but yet you can kind of fight yourself out of any paper bag in that regard, you know, when it comes to that. So there's no argument that they can kind of pin you in that corner. I would not even dare do it. So, you know what I mean? I know what I know, and I know when to kind of not speak about anything. And that's why I'm quite clear on the things I want to talk about and the things I kind of go, not so much I don't want to talk about it, but I'm not going to involve myself in things that I know nothing about. Whereas the left don't see it that way. If you don't really fully know Islam, if you don't fully know what the day-to-day runnings are of what the women are dealing with, what people like you have to see on a daily basis, then don't get involved in the argument. All you've got to do is see it from both sides. It's not difficult. We all have that ability. I've got that ability. You know, we can see it from both sides. And you just feel that at what point is that going to happen, Toni? At what point are people going to really turn around? Does it have to have bombings literally on their street? I mean, going back to last night, there was hi to all the guys that I enjoyed a lovely meal and I had a lovely time. You know, it was brilliant being in their company. We was in a really quaint pub out in the middle of the sticks on the cusp of Huddersfield, but it was on, you know, going out towards Sheffield and whatnot. And to go there, you go there and you would not think that we've got a problem in this world, because the people that are sat in that pub were middle-aged men and women, all, you know, very, you could tell, very successful. You go out, you look at the car park, lovely cars, and they've worked hard. You know, some of them are retired. You know, the kind of middle-aged kind of people, just nice, mild-mannered, gentle people. Because I'm like you, Toni, we get in this company, you feel amongst friends, so you can talk to each other and you just hit it off straight away. There's no hatred, but there's just sheer common sense bouncing off one another all the time. So we're nipping out for a fag, and as we're having this fag, we're lovely. It's like a scene of the set of Emmerdale Farm. You know, all stone buildings and lovely kind of rolling hills and whatnot. It was lovely and picturesque. But these guys were so far removed that I felt that when we were talking outside, we were kind of going, the right this, the right that. And I'm tapping the geezers on the shoulder and going, shh, shh, shh. Because it's almost like we sound extreme talking like that there, because they live in this lovely, quaint place that is so far removed from going on. And you think to yourself, do they need to have a suicide bomb in that area in order for them to sway their opinion towards what we're thinking? Now, me personally, I've seen things probably since 9/11 was my really cut-off point. I'm thinking, war on terror, Tony Blair's a frigging war criminal, Bush is a war criminal. They've manipulated us into a war. Why are they hitting Saddam Hussein when it should be, you know, it should be Saudi Arabia? Because basically Saudi Arabia was, one, they were the main financiers of the whole thing, and two, that most of the perpetrators were actually Saudi Arabian. So what are you going there for? But then when you actually look at it, the plan was to go through certain Middle Eastern countries. I did not subscribe to that. So don't blame me for that. So that kind of got my goal a little bit. Now, it got my goal even more now because it hit women, you know, and kids in Manchester. Now I'm forward projecting, thinking, I've got 2 children, both under the age of 18. If we don't actually get a resolve to this now, by the time they get to my age, they are stuffed, you know, and I'm hoping that common sense will prevail. You know, now, when you travel around, Toni, I know you obviously must get resistance. Do you feel that still most people are living in cuckoo land when it comes to actually seeing what's going on? Even though we've got bomb bollards everywhere, we've got, you know, to me, it's all day, every day, because I hear stories. I talk to people like you all the time, but I do get the sense that there's still some people that have got their head firmly buried in the sand. Now, to me, I'd just like to know, what are your opinions on people that are, one, don't want to see it, and two, because they don't see people with headscarves walking around their streets. They don't want to engage in it, and they want to see you as a hater. I mean, what's your opinions on that?
Listen, I've come across people who have assumed they've made the assumption that I am a hater. Want to call me every name you can imagine. The difference is that I very calmly explain to them, please tell me what I've said that's hateful. And if you can tell me what I've said that's hateful, and then listen to my explanation of why I've said what I've said, then I will accept from your perspective that if you still want to think I'm a hater, then that's your right. But when you start talking to them and you say to them, did you know? Do you realize? Are you aware? Do you realize your silence allows these women to suffer alone in the dark with a fucking bag over their head? Do you realize that your silence makes you culpable? You are responsible. I'm not. I'm talking about it. I'm not afraid to address it. Your fear keeps you silent. Your silence creates victims. Well done. And I do the flipper type.
Yeah.
But I do think that there has been places I've gone to and they've had no idea. They don't know what Sharia law is. They don't know what about the jihad, the holy jihad, not the personal jihad. Because many Muslims will tell you there's more than one type of jihad. There's one that refers to personal struggle. There is holy jihad that refers to violence against anyone who's not a believer. And when you say to them, whether you like it or not, these extremists, these nut jobs can go to a quote that says, kill the unbeliever wherever you find them, strike the neck of the unbeliever, kill the Jew wherever he's hiding. Jews are pigs in eight. The fact that they can go to these texts, the fact that they can go to the Hadith, and then of course you've got your different sects, and you've got Sunni, Shia, Salafi, Wahabi, Ahmadi, okay, and Deobandi. So you've got all these different sects of Muslims, and one doesn't like the other, that doesn't like the other, that doesn't like the other. So before long, you're going to have wars amongst them too. And it's because one follows one set of hadith and the other follow a different set of hadith. One set of hadith says one thing, and hadith is nothing more than Chinese whispers, along with every religious text as far as I'm concerned. But the hadith even more so, because these are words that people claim they heard Muhammad say. And somebody wrote a book about them. And now, so I know people say to me, this is the literal word of God. Well, how can it be the literal word of God? The Bible is the story of God and the story of Jesus. How can the Quran be the literal word of God? Muhammad was illiterate. Therefore, a guy sat on the floor with a bit of, I don't know, a bit of tree bark or something. And Muhammad said, this is what's been said to me by God. Please write it down. But you can't guarantee the little fellow with his tree bark wrote down exactly what he asked him to write down. So therefore, how can it be the literal word of God? But if you want to follow it as the literal word of God, fine. But don't turn around and tell me I can't criticize it. Don't turn around and tell me that me criticizing it means I'm Islamophobic. It means that I'm a racist, a bigot, or a fascist. I have the right to criticize any and all faiths and none. People criticize atheists all the time. I don't want to beat somebody up because they criticize atheism. I get told all the time, you know, somebody said, didn't you play Pat Butcher in EastEnders? No, but I did a bloody good job of it, wouldn't I? You know, I've got the face of Pat Butcher and the attitude of her. And she did occasionally give him a smack up the ear. So, you know, by all means, come along, Jason. I'm happy to give you a smack up the ear. That's fine.
I'll tell you what, going back to that, there was one speech that when you were making the speech in Edinburgh, which I missed, I must admit, because there was lots of complications, travel complications, yeah. But when I did eventually watch the speech, at one point you turned to the haters and you actually said, and I've got a louder voice than you and I can keep talking longer than you. And I thought, that is absolutely fantastic, because that's what these guys need. They need a verbal slapping, but they need it with reason. I mean, going back to what you were saying before, the aggression is not the way. We can all throw bottles and we can all do this and we can all get into a kind of thuggery mentality. But actually being able to stand there and to be able to put your words across with a determined kind of tone. There's nothing wrong with that. I do it all the time. I can barely get a sentence out without sounding like I'm kind of angry, because the emotion just spills out as I speak, and I can't help that. I find it very difficult at times to talk softly, because if I get passionate about something, I generally raise up, and that is just a normal response. But I love the way you tackled that, and that is the way to generally go about this scenario. To kind of keep hitting him verbally, keep hitting him. If you want to keep doing that, you know what, so can I. But I can do it just as well as you, and I can do it for as longer than you can. And you'll find that the world go quieter and quieter once you hit him with that common sense rhetoric.
I think what I actually said to her is, I said something along the lines of, I am louder than you, I am prouder than you, and I am braver than you. I just said it much louder than they were saying it. Yeah. And that's why I said to him, look, you can get as loud as you like, right? If you think it's going to stop you saying what needs to be said, you're wrong. I'm still going to say it. If you think that means I'm not going to, at the next event, read out the 70+ towns where Muslim grooming gangs have operated, you are wrong.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how much you turn up, how much you scream racist at me, Islamophobe, I don't care. Yeah. I don't care. And as soon as the left understand that people like me and people like you do not care, it falls on deaf ears. In fact, I even said to Richard, I said, what I would do, and Richard's gone, do you know what? I think you ought to do this. I said, I'd have a big banner, and across that banner, I just have the words, all we are saying is give peace a chance. And then I'd get the song on a stereo thing and a loud hater. And every time the left chanted, I'd just hold the banner up and I'd switch it on. So you got John Lennon singing, all we are saying is give peace a chance. Because what you're doing is turning the tails on them. Yeah. They say they want peace, but we're the ones saying, we're saying give peace a chance.
Because they're the ones that are showing the aggression by doing what they're doing. We're just casually talking about concerns. We're not progressing hate, or we're not kind of instilling hate on anybody. We're directing it to the rightful place, as it were. You know, it's almost like we've got a GPS signal and we've honed in on the actual problem. What they're doing, they're generally sweeping. They're saying, you know, instead of that one house, it's a whole freaking street. So we're going to stand here with a megaphone and we're going to shout to the whole street. Like, no, target the one house that is actually the issue here, you know. So that is the way. I mean, but I found that when I go to marches, I'm finding that people are, the word Nazi is getting boring now. It's lost its currency. The word, you know, fascist, I mean, that used to actually mean something back in the day. Now it means nothing. They've sullied that word. So it's like, you've got to come with something else now, because you are a laughing stock now. You've got no power in your words. And what they expect to happen is when they kind of shout them lanes, you know, the fact of a poor little old lady who's like kind of on a microphone, they wanted you to be so intimidated and to feel timid, and your words are, you know, get quiet because you can hear them on the megaphone shouting. But you didn't. You raised it up even more, and that was against a load of airy ass blokes as well. And it's like, fantastic. And it kind of just quelled them straight away. What have they got?
They went quiet really quickly, didn't they? They just suddenly went,
fantastic. Fantastic. But that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, that should answer to them earlier comments that, you know, I mean, imagine now, if you were to pass that microphone to them people that were saying them comments about it's all of Islam and, you know, Islam, get all the Muslims out. Imagine if you used to give them a microphone in the centre of a town centre. Imagine how much damage they would cause, as opposed to what you were doing there, you know, which you were directing it, rightfully so, at the problem, you know, without castigating anyone that didn't need to be castigated. Whereas, you know, their rhetoric's all about just spilling just sheer hatred. I guarantee the second march in, they would be on their own, because you're never going to attract anyone other than just nasty-minded people like yourself. Now, obviously, we all know about people that, I've got concerns. You know, the gentleman that I'm telling you about, where his son.
Can I just say, before you say anything, You've got somebody on your thing. Now, I'm not sure. Apparently, if there's a 3 dots on the where you can see the chat messages coming up. Yeah. Someone there has just said, fat, fake, blonde. It's talking to me, obviously. That's a lovely description. And all I can say is I fit it so well. Apparently, my clit is getting removed. Let me tell you now, sunshine, you'd have to get near it first. And there's a fat chance of that. But apparently, on your live chat, if you look on your actual YouTube channel, there's 3 dots. You can create a moderator. Now, Bart's offered, and I'm assuming Bart is a good guy. He seems to have been so far. And things like, you can't handle it, can you, Brett? Well, I'm English, firstly, not British. So,
right.
It's just some arsehole you've got on who's come on there. Clearly got a bit of an attitude. He can keep his attitude. We're almost done here anyway. But I didn't want to give, but for future reference, when we do it, we'll have to contact Bart or somebody else, and then that way we can make sure that you've got a moderator just to stop the arseholes. You get an arsehole like that, he can block them, remove them, report them, whatever.
Well, I've not got any comments coming up on my side, so I don't know whether that's just down to my settings. I've not set it up right. I mean, like I say, this is the first time I've done this, first time I've been in charge of this. Yeah, so, you know, to be honest, you're going to get keyboard warriors and you're going to get people that disagree. But with the very fact that you stand up and say things, not everyone's going to agree with what you're saying. So that is just a given anyway, really. So I can expect that. I try not to react to people when they go on. So half of me is kind of glad that I haven't got comments kind of streaming up and down. But although I do allow people the open forum to comment, I've got no problem with that.
Open forum's good. There's a huge difference between open forum and talking about removing women's clitorises.
Is that what's? Are you getting them kind of? You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it.
I'm used to it, and the truth of it is that the man would have to know what a clitoris looks like, and I doubt very much he's seen one very often.
Well, he's probably got one on his head, so he probably knows exactly what one is.
Dick. Don't you dare offend the women's clit. That's a dick. That is a dick if ever I saw one.
Yeah. So all right. Well, is there any legitimate constructive questions that you've got up there? Because if not, maybe it is time to kind of wrap it up. I mean, we have been going for quite a while, so it has been a brilliant session.
It has, and we will do more. We will.
Yeah, I'd love to.
We're quite happy to ignore the trolls, and the chances are these trolls are probably the same people that have been trolling me for the last 5 or 6 years. Quite frankly, I don't care.
Don't worry about them. Haters are always going to hate, Tony, and there's not a lot you can say. As long as you're true to your word, then, you know, I'm sure there's been a few comments there regarding me as well, which I'm sure you are. Pardon?
There's been a couple.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure you're nice and polite and you've not mentioned it. And I knew that because that just happens by nature. You're going to get people that are going to attack me, one because of my colour. Yeah,
the one was, why do you lick the white man's arse? And I just want to point out, I'm a white woman, and if he's licking my arse, it's not a problem to you.
Oh, well, this is it. So you just leave them to it. Leave them to it. All I can hope is that when I speak, people resonate. I don't always get it right. This is a very much a virginal thing for me. So, you know, it just is what it is. Hopefully I'll get better and more confident with doing this as time goes on. But I automatically understand that not everyone is going to agree. And I'm
quite happy for people to not agree. Mm. We had it earlier on. People were very honest. Some were criticisms of my views. Others were criticisms of your views. Some were actually in support of your views and in support of my views. So I don't mind that. You know, I don't mind that at all. I welcome people's difference of opinions. That's what real free speech is about. Free speech and just being a complete dick is two different things. Right. And if you're going to be a complete dick, if you haven't got enough brains to put a very concise question together, then quite frankly, you show your own ignorance and stupidity.
Of course. But these are the same people, Tony, that, like I say, you cannot give these guys a microphone. Because you give these guys a microphone, they'll get the same treatment as Trump is getting. Not to say that Trump is like that at all, but he's getting demonized for almost doing the right thing. Now imagine with these guys, you give these a forum, and see what happens. They're just total keyboard warriors, and they just want to kind of just put that aggression out. And that's fine, you can put all that aggression out, but you know what? people like my wife, other innocent people around this country who probably do have concerns about what's going on. When they listen to people like this, they will not resonate with them, and that is the point. Now, that might hit them to the core. They don't like that, and there's nothing I can do about that. All I can do is be as righteous as I possibly can and talk with integrity and talk with honesty. Now, sometimes I fluff the odd word. Sometimes I get my little point wrong. Sometimes people will get pedantic on comments. I'll spend half an hour doing a video, and then people are going, did you mean to say this, or did you mean to say that? Did you spell this, or did you? It's like, so what? I just like spent all this, you know, and it's like, come on, if you're going to give me grief, be constructive about it. Don't start being pedantic over, pardon me French, bollocks, because you're wasting my time, seriously. So I try
We're really well behaved as well, Phil, because you and I both swear like nubbies.
Yes.
Right? But we've been very well behaved, and while he's been on there swearing up, we've become, you know, well behaved. Next time I may not hold back, and I might just say you're a wanker. Not you, him.
Yeah. You just don't feed to it, Toni, because you feed to it, they come back for more, don't they?
The truth of it is, I'm a relatively articulate person. Doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. Of course it doesn't. I'm a human being. We all make mistakes. And people who want to pick you up on your grammar are grammar Nazis. The people who want to pick you up on your spelling are spelling Nazis. And quite frankly, they're not worthy of a reply if it's a genuine criticism. They inboxed you and said, did you realise you spelled that wrong? It's spelled this way. Okay, shit, thanks for that. Like, for example, I'm looking and you spelt my name Bugal and it's Bugle. But I could have...
And I've done Toni with a Y.
And Toni with a Y, so I've had a sex change.
Because, you know why that was? Let me explain that, right? Okay, because it was a very long day. And I'd done all my editing on my phone on the train going home. So literally, when I got home, all the clips were ready to upload. Okay, so some people, some ladies have got the Toni with a Y. Some ladies have got a Toni with an I. You never know nowadays with how people pronounce the names and how people, you know, spell the names, because everyone likes it. Let me tell you a story. One of my daughters comes to me the other day. And she tells me that, Dad, you will never believe what one of the kids in our school is called. And I said, what? She goes, Lid Ashley. And I said, right, okay. It sounds a bit made up, but fine. I said, yeah, that is made up, Dad. But do you want to know how they spell it? L-I-L-I.
It's a bit like, you know, look, my name isn't... It is with an I, because it's female.
And I do apologise, because when I'd actually uploaded the clip, it was almost like the damage was done. And I feel now, because I'm not very savvy with YouTube, in order to correct it, I would have to re-edit it on my phone, and I would have to delete that one and then replace it. Now, I fear by deleting that one, all the comments are going to go with it, and it's going to be like starting all over again. So
you can edit the name easy. You can edit the title.
No, not on the actual initial, you know, the screen where the coloured screen, and I've put a candid interview with Toni Bugle. That bit I can't change, because that was done on my phone.
Don't need to, it's fine as it is.
Right, okay, so like I say, it's a mistake that is
up there. About on here though.
Right, okay. Oh, geez, right, well, right, I'll take it on there, yeah, okay. There you go. No one's perfect, you know. And I constantly will make mistakes. And I constantly will.
His whole explanation.
Exactly. You know what? I went to a comprehensive school. I didn't go to a grammar school, and I flunked at school anyway. You know what I mean?
I went to a comprehensive school.
You know, I'm not saying that's bad for, you know. All I'm saying is I am a common person. I'm a person that was kind of, you know, I was brought up on a council estate, so don't expect the most perfect dictation when I speak, and don't expect any of that. You're going to get what you get. Sometimes I'm rough around the edges. Sometimes I come across as, you know, oh, he's a very well-spoken person. It depends what you're getting. It depends what the mood I'm in, and this, that, and the other. And sometimes I rush things, and sometimes my fingers are that fat that I end up pressing the wrong frigging button and then pressing send before I've actually So there's all kinds of reasons, but like you say, you can't hate. You've got to go with the overall message and where you're going with something, and not be pedantic with
and
people.
Actually, I find it very funny that you spell it wrong the second time, because it just gives me something to laugh at you with. I mean, laugh with you with.
Oh, well, this is it. I don't mind.
And you are in my phone, to be fair. You are still in my phone under the name Red Pill.
There you go.
You're not even Phil, you're just Red Pill. There's no Phil in there, you're just Red Pill.
Yeah, yeah.
But so I don't mind. I find it quite humorous. And I think humour, look, laughter is the elixir of life.
Yes.
And we need more of it.
Yes.
We lack it. But listen, I think that we've probably bored them all enough.
Yes.
But we will do this again, hopefully.
Yes.
And now that you know how to set it up.
Well, you know, it's one of them that, for me, this is obviously on my channel now. Let the comments decide. Let the comments decide. If they want this to be a more regular thing, then I'm quite happy with that. How regular, we'll have to work out. We can sort something out.
I mean, let's not bore them with it becoming, you know.
Don't want it too often. It has to be, you know, quite spread out and stuff. But it's been very engaging and very interesting. So it's up to people. Leave the comments. If you want to see more of it, let me know what you think, because I would quite happily do it again. But at the same time, I want constructive comments. If you want to put nasty comments, put that on there as well. But you've got very little chance. I'd like to think you've got 2 hopes of me answering them comments, slim and none, really. So I'm just going to totally ignore it.
We get some lovely comments now. Some people, for some reason, people think I'm raging. Really.
Oh, okay.
But you're actually getting some nice comments and saying, no, we really enjoyed it, and they do want us to do it again. So, you know,
it's been a positive.
If you want him to do it again, you're all going to have to be extra nice to him and tell him. Okay? And somebody says more Toni. All I can say is it's the blonde hair and the blue eyes that the other one hates. It calls himself up the bra. So, mate, if that pisses them off, I'm quite happy to do that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They say, though, the nail that stands up often gets hammered down. So, by very nature, I think we both set ourselves up for criticism just because of what we're doing, and more so with you than me. I mean, I've only just come on the scene 3-4 months ago, and I'm still constantly like daunted and thinking, whoa, what's going on here? I was never I never thought this was going to happen. I never wanted this to happen. I'm not ego based, so I'm not kind of like, oh, I'm going to walk into the light on this. I'm constantly thinking to myself, oh, you know, do you really want to go that far? Do you want to do that interview? Do you not want to just stay at home? And my wife thinks like that as well. So, but at the same time, there's so many beautiful people I'm meeting, like yourself, that's just giving me the will to go, I want to meet more people like this. I actually feel alive when I go to events like this, because I do feel that I'm around very like-minded people, and it's beautiful to be around, you know, and it wants to make me carry on doing it, and I do feel it's a worthwhile cause. So all I can say to that is, Toni, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. It's probably gone on way too long, but I am a waffler. I can't help that. It's just my very nature.
We're both a waffler. We normally do it on the phone, Phil.
I know. You know what? How many conversations have we had that has been less than an hour on the phone?
We haven't. Probably 2. Actually.
2 hours. Exactly. You know, whether I be...
I think there's only been 2 conversations where we've gone, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll see you on Skype.
I know, yeah. And I'm like, Toni, can I ring you back? I've just got to pick my kids. Oh, Toni, can I just ring you back? I've just got something in the oven. Toni, it's just like, you know, it's just life is kind of...
As I told you, we will be friends for life. And it's a good thing that it is. To me, I've got no regrets meeting you. And like I said, people like you and I will destroy the whole rhetoric. And like I said, we show that actually black and white really can unite. And it's the left that actually were full of little white, middle-aged, pasty-coloured men, not us. They did look like they had skin like cold porridge.
Yeah, I think they just need to get a better hobby. I'm sure there's jigsaw puzzles out there that suit people like that, you know, or go and get in your allotment and just close the door. You know, I was like, once you've done it, I'll just put the frigging padlock on it. They're just weird people that have just got it all twisted and skewed. But hey ho, you're going to get it. You're going to get it. So it's much fun confronting these people in a nice, positive way and just kind of showing them for what they are. So Yeah, Toni, it's absolutely been wonderful. Totally enjoyed your company as ever.
My pleasure.
So yeah, I'd like to say thank you for everyone who's enjoyed all this. It's been absolutely brilliant. I hope you've enjoyed. You know, it's a good way to end a Sunday night. I'm probably going to have to go to bed soon, early rise for work in the morning and whatnot.
He's going to go up there now and make up for the fact that he burned dinner. I'm just saying.
Thanks for that.
On that note, I'm going to bid you all a good night. And Phil, no doubt, will be messaging me in a minute going, oh, you did.
Can't believe that. We did manage to rescue it. It was nice in the end, although the potatoes were a little bit hard on the outside.
Well, they were a little bit, you know.
Yeah, and you know, my wife actually come in and give me that verbal slap when I introduced her to you. She's like, "Oh yeah, well yeah, it was lovely to meet you, Toni, but now I've got a rescue tea." Big old thought, nice one between the two of you.
And the best bit was, I said, "I wouldn't part there." Slap him up the side of the and she went, "Oh, I like her even more now."
Oh yeah, oh I tell you.
So the next bit will be me coming down to you, and we'll go out somewhere for a meal together.
That sounds absolutely fantastic because I can't cook for obvious reasons, so it's not going to work if you expect me to cook. Seriously. So brilliant. Toni, it's been an absolute pleasure. But before we go, do you want to give any details out of how people can contact you or things that you're doing up and coming?
Well, like I said, the February the 17th is Veterans Against Terrorism. I'd like to see as many people as possible out there. That's in Newcastle. If you want to contact me, you can go on to Facebook. There's two accounts. One's Toni Matrix Bugle, one's Toni Bugle, spelled Bugle. Let me
write that down.
You can get me on Twitter. Look under Toni Matrix Bugle on Twitter. And also, if you want to check out my website, it's marias.org.uk.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Well, you know what, I'm sure people have been fascinated because you're such an interesting person. You know, it's brilliant to listen to someone who's so informed and so determined, and the old battery kind of technique, the fact that you took a negative and you turned it into a positive, and you're still doing it on a daily, hourly basis. So you're an inspiration to so many women out there. So I know there's women that are listening to you now that are getting so much inspiration, and hopefully it can give them the goal to kind of go, yeah, you know, I want to come out a little bit more. So I hope people have found the points that we've brought out interesting. Yeah, and that's about it really. So from me, redpillphil, I'd like to say thank you for everyone that's persevered, and thank you to you, Toni Bugle, LE.
Thank you very much for having me. Until next time.
Okie dokie. Thank you very much.
Take
and
care,
thanks again all to subscribers, and redpillphil, like and subscribe and share. Thanks a lot, guys. Love you all. And this is not a race thing, it's a common sense thing.
Perfect.
Cheers, Toni. See you later.
Bye.
Bye now.